I'm from the Great White North, right? Like up above the States.
Yeah.
The big landmass that the rest of the world hates.
yeah.
We're like above that. Fucking north, I guess. The big patch of trees where everybody's bored to death. We're just chilling up here, sipping syrup, playing hockey. Before we learn to walk, we can cross-check properly. Just rocking plaid jackets. Chainsaws, we operate them right. Fucking A-right we do, bud. We cut our weight in firewood. Every 20 minutes or so. Smoke break. And if the Leafs make the playoffs, I'll fucking jump in the lake. Fucking buddy comes over to my place the other night and he's like, "You wanna go out for a rip?" And I was like, "Fucking right."
Yeah.
So we hop in the truck and hit the mud and I was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, bud." Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip. Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip. Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip. Just out for a rip, are you, bud? Just out for a rip. I come from the land of the polite, where shit's covered in ice. And when I'm down in the States, they're like, "You're too fucking nice." I'm like, yeah, we got manners, but fucking buddies still fight and fucking swear and fucking drink all night. Like this one time, me and fucking buddy are out having a dart, and fucking buddy burns a hole in my coat. And I was like, "Fuck, bud," because the coat was pretty new, right? And he's like, "Fuck you." So I put his head in a snowbank and just started fucking feeding him the right, left, like fucking boom, boom, boom. You had enough yet? And he's like, okay, fuck, chill out, shit. So I pulled him out of the snow and we went out for a rip. Yeah. Just out for a rip, are you? Fuck yeah. Just out for a rip. Fucking right. Just out for a rip, are you? Fuck yeah. Just out for a rip. Fucking right. Just out for a rip, are you? Fuck yeah. Just out for a rip. Fucking right. Just out for a rip, are you? Fuck yeah. Just out for a rip. Fucking right.
This has to be in the video. Jesus.
What?
What is it?
Where is
It never gets old, just coming down.
Right.
We eat Smarties, you eat M&Ms, and you think all our money looks pretend. Yeah, we got Bryan Adams, hey, you got Bruce Springsteen, but we can't drink in bars when we're just 19. You got Brad Pitt, but we got Keanu Reeves, but we got the best lake fishing, you best believe. Yeah, you make fun of us cause we spell color with a U. You think you're all that, Mr. Red, White, and Blue. We say hey, you say y'all. Yeah, we both got pro football, except we got bigger balls and a longer field. We say Z, you say Z. Sure, we watch all your TV. You got a stronger armor down there, but men up here, we got stronger beer. You got Dunkin' Donuts, we got Timmy's. We got more land, but bro, you got more cities. You sure love the NFL, MLB, and the NBA. But to the Great White North, hockey is the only game. Hey, we say hey, you say y'all. Yeah, we both got pro football, except we got bigger balls and a longer field. We say Z, you say Z. Sure, we watch all your TV. You got a stronger army down there, but men up here, we got stronger beer. neighbor. All kidding aside, it takes me 6 beers to get pissed drunk, but for you, it takes 9. Sucker! We say hey, you say y'all. Yeah, we both got pro football. Except we got big balls and a longer field. We say Z, you say Z. Sure, we watch all your TV. And you got a stronger armor down there, a man up here. We got stronger beer. Yeah, we got stronger beer. Whoa, we got stronger beer. Yeah, we do, baby.
Do y'all really have stronger beer?
And the girls are out the bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. With Irish Jim O'Connell there and Scotty Jack McDonald, there's Hunky Frederick Herschel getting tight, but that's alright. There's Happy German Fritzy there with Frenchy getting tipsy, and even Joe the Gypsy knows it's Saturday tonight. Now when Mary Ann and Mabel come to join us at the table and tell us how the bingo went tonight, we'll look upright. But if they win the money, we'll be laughing at the honey boys, 'cause everything is funny for it's Saturday tonight. Yeah, the girls are out the bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. Ah, play it, Jerry. We'll drink the loot we borrowed and recuperate tomorrow, 'cause everything is wonderful tonight. We had a good flight. We ate the dilly pickle and we forgot about the nickel, and everybody's tickled for it's Saturday tonight. The songs that we'll be singing, they might be wrong, but they'll be ringing, and all the lights of town are shining bright, and we're all tight. We'll get to work on Monday, but tomorrow's only Sunday, and we're out to have a fun day for it's Saturday tonight. Yeah, the girls are out to bingo and the boys are getting stinkle. We think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. The glasses they will tinkle when our eyes begin to twinkle, and we think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night. We think no more of bingo on a Sudbury Saturday night.
Watching hockey with her daddy on Saturday nights. He taught her how to tie her skates. Her brothers taught her how to fight. She can wear high heels or flannel. She can look sexy in a toque. She likes snowstorms and Gordon Lightfoot. And if you're lucky, she'll love you. Canadian girls, Canadian girls, irresistible, lovable, trouble, though sometimes, girls, we can travel the world.
It's my show, ding dong.
Hello! It is January 8th, 2025. I'm LeftHandWednesday. Welcome to the show. It's only Wednesday, Lefty. It's I thought that last week, before the Christmas holidays, was long. This one seems like Monday was 10 years long. I'm 52 years old as of Wednesday, because Tuesday was another 10 years, so I've aged 2 decades since this week started. And it was like, on Sunday, I'm like, I went and I did groceries on the weekend, and I'm like, there's not really going to be a whole lot going on, so I had like all my like meals planned out, and started eating healthy and regularly, and that's out the window immediately. But welcome to the show. That's my vent. Howdy, everyone. It's Wednesday, as I said, so we've got sort of I think what 48 hours and a bit. We're coming on 60 hours after our Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced that he would be resigning as leader of the Liberal Party and Prime Minister of the country following a robust and nationwide leadership election for the Liberal Party. We still don't really know what the rules are going to be for that. As it stands, the rules are supposed to be at least, I think it's 90 days for from when the leadership election is called to the vote, and 41 days before the election you have to be a member to be eligible to vote. Howdy, Chimera. How's it going? Now the problem is that Trudeau, when he resigned, prorogued Parliament. So he basically cleared the board on Parliament, sent everything back to go. No one collects $200. But he's only done that till March 24th. And if you can do some quick math, that's 11 weeks. That's shorter than 90 days. That's 77 days. 75, I think, now. So that will have to be figured out. There's also the whole issue of foreign interference. Wait, quote of the day. I think it would be better if they were the 11th province.
Oh, I did hear Green Party
Mark
leader
Miller?
Liz May talking about acquiring, I think, was it Oregon, Washington, maybe
Sorry,
California.
I love the
throw
little
in.
quote of the day.
So I'm going to guess her.
Okay, I don't think we can afford California, but it's a good guess. Marika, who you got?
Because Miller is usually pretty feisty. But yeah, so... Oh, God, where was I? I got distracted. So they haven't picked the leadership rules. So they're the national national board, the Liberals, will be meeting tomorrow to decide those rules and finalize them. So assumingly we might have rules as early as tomorrow night, which would mean that we might start getting potential candidates in the race lining up on this the starting mark. We already had one cabinet minister announce that he would not be running. Newly minted finance minister Dominic LeBlanc. The joking name he's been given is the Minister of Custodial Affairs. I think I'm getting that right, because he basically just cleans up everyone's mess when he gets moved into a new position. He announced he would not be running. He said we can pull up his statement, but basically what he said was that the threats posed by Trump's tariffs require his full attention. And therefore he would not be running. Where is it? I should be able to find this. Yes. So here's his. I have it right here. Pull it up real quick. Where is this? Yes. All right. So statement from Honorable Dominic LeBlanc. While I'm extremely grateful for the encouragement and the expressions of support I have received from Cox colleagues and Liberals across the country, I have decided not to be a candidate in the Liberal Party of Canada's upcoming leadership race. Kindness has touched me more than can imagine, and I am enormously grateful to each and every one of you. Serving Canadians is an immense privilege, and at a moment when Canada is at a crucial juncture in its relationship with its most important ally and trading partner, the United States, I firmly believe that at this time, the best way for me to serve our country is to direct my full attention to my job as Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs, working together with cabinet colleagues, premiers, other party leaders, business, and union leaders to make the case against the unjust application of tariffs on Canadian businesses and workers to the upcoming Trump administration. That's in reference, just in case you don't know, to be blanket 25% tariffs that Trump is threatening on Canada and Mexico. The threat these tariffs pose to our nation's economic well-being and the livelihood of countless number of Canadian families cannot be understated, and as such, it requires nothing less than my full attention. I look forward to running as a candidate under the new Liberal leader in the next federal election and to asking the people of Beausejour to renew their confidence in me as their member of parliament, as they have so graciously done over the last 8 federal elections. God damn, that's a lot. So he's not running, and that caused a lot of shockwaves. That was very shocking because he was honestly shaping up to be the favorite. And like you saw that a lot with like there were MPs who came out. Like there's MPs who came out of caucus after meeting with him. And he had announced he wouldn't be running before caucus. So they came out of caucus afterwards going like, oh, we're still trying to convince him to change his mind. Like just they're like, we don't accept it. Like, no. You don't accept this Sherman if nominated, I will not run, motherfucker. We want you bad. I mean, I don't know if it's everybody, but there's definitely a couple. All right, we're gonna catch the last few minutes of Power and Politics because I want to. Give me my power panel, and because in about 15 minutes we will
because
more,
so far Canada had kind of been alone at it, right? We were the punching bag, and no one was really
what Dylan's
realizing
up to. We will
that
be jumping on
not just us. It's fun and games when you're watching someone else over the ocean go through.
Or I guess not explain, because or give the American audience what the sort of Canadian reaction has been. And by God, if anyone could do it, if anyone could reawaken the slumbering giant of just hot red and white blooded Canadian nationalism, it's Trump, because he's done it, by God.
Federal parties going in every direction, provinces going in every direction, and I think it is good news that finally the provinces out of today's meeting seem to be united. They're saying they're united going to Washington in February. They're saying they're going to have a united approach. And I was talking to someone in Quebec City after the meeting saying, you know, they also discussed on the call today or the meeting today that they're going to share their contacts list and kind of go over there and spread out to cover more ground. And they're coordinating, okay, you can talk to this person, I'll talk to this person. And I think it's a welcome approach because we're in the situation we're in Ottawa. I think it's nice to see them unite, and they're also pretty relieved that Dom LeBlanc is not, at least someone is not running for leadership, because they feel like at least that brings stability on the file and on the coordination with them going forward.
We found a cabinet minister, Jason, who would take Danielle Smith's advice, and Dominic LeBlanc, because she said on the show on Monday, please don't leave. We need you to stay in this job, and here we are. So the premiers are going to get their meeting next week. They've got a plan. They're going to Washington. What do you make of this pick by Marie?
I mean, I'll be curious to see. We haven't heard any real pushback or anger about the 51st state stuff from Danielle Smith yet. So we'll see. She's been playing more the good cop to the rest of them. So we'll see on that.
The CAN-U.S. website.
But you know, this talk about retaliatory tariffs from Premier Holt, Doug Ford's very firm talk. You know, and in terms of the federal, the federal thing with LeBlanc, these premiers were aware that they were the force of stability in this confederation right now with such an unstable federal government. That I think for them it's a big relief to have at least one figure who's chief on this file still there and still helping coordinate. Even Premier Holt was talking about the work that LeBlanc was doing. I think they're going to be reliant on him as a force of stability, especially if Melanie Jolie leaves for the praise.
The premiers are kind of together on this and coordinated on this, and that's good for reassuring, I think, Canadians. But they can't do international trade. They can't do foreign policy. Like, they are limited by the Constitution. So this is still a difficult situation.
Yeah, I think, wasn't Doug Ford introduced as the Premier of Canada? I'm not sure that people in the U.S. even really understand what
Jesse Waters,
what that power dynamic is, what their role is.
Premier.
Of course, they have
I'm like,
huge
you
table
know
states
that
for
word.
their own provinces in their own economies in getting this sorted and in having that concerted effort. And maybe we will see more of a strategy coming out of next week's meeting with the Prime Minister. But it still is the case that there is this lack of a really forceful message from Ottawa. We're seeing more Doug Ford on American airwaves than we are anybody else at the federal level, and that seems to be something that needs to be corrected quite quickly.
Yeah. All right. So, Jason, let's talk about this. Your pick has to do with what's happening in the United States and with the Republican Party, with the ascendancy of Donald Trump yet again.
Yeah, my up is Trumpism, because I think back to 8 years ago when Trump became president. You know, some of his more unruly, rangy ideas, like the Muslim ban, did not get a whole lot of support from Republicans. He was kind of off on his own little island with some of that stuff. They'd always, you know, like skittle past reporters in the Congress Hall saying, oh, well, that's his idea, that's nice. Yeah. This time it's very different. We're getting some bemused people, but we had Lindsey Graham joke about why wasn't Canada in the roll call for states on January 6th when they confirmed the Electoral College votes. He said, we'll fix that next time. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's kind of always been sort of one of the more out there pro-Trump Congress people. But
because even with the way he answered the question the
covering
other day,
Canada,
it didn't feel off,
Mike
super
Lee,
off
the
the cuff. It
senator
felt like
from
something
Utah
that had been discussed.
Maybe Alberta would come along.
Because they're like, would you use
and there was Brian Mast, who was the
military
the
force? He's like,
chair
no.
of the House Foreign Affairs
Economic
Committee.
force, maybe. It's like, are you
Praising
weighing your
New York
options
Post
on
map
this?
That calls Canada the 51st state.
Is this
and
what
calls
Crimea
Greenland
felt
our
like?
land, and saying we dream big.
In like the
He
early
has all these
2010s or
enablers that
whenever
he didn't have in the past.
Before
all these
the
encouraging
invasion. Don't yell at me if I got
these,
the year
this
wrong.
legislative branch that used to be independent.
History and geography.
They're all
and
gone,
a bunch
though,
of
right?
things.
They've all been primaried out.
A lot of them are gone. A lot of them are primaried out. But the people
Whatever
who
year's supposed
could
to
have
be,
just
pretend I
ignored
said
some of
that.
these more rangy comments are losing it. The other lost opportunity in this is that because he's saying all these crazy things, these journalists are not asking. They're asking them, what do you think about this idea that we should use military force on Panama? And they're not asking more serious questions about more serious pressing issues that seem more real, like what would you think about the economic impacts of tariffs? And that's the sort of question that a lot of Canadians and certainly the premiers would like those people to be asked.
Right. Look, we got 5 minutes to get through the rest of this, but you know, Marie, we get a lot of questions like, why are you talking about Trump all the time? It's like, well, like he is unleashed. There's nobody.
He has
in his
nuclear
administration who's gonna
weapons.
Put sand in the
And
gears
he's
like
threatening
there was in
our
the first term
sovereignty.
presidency. He's
That's
surrounded by enablers, and who the hell knows what he's going to do, right? This is the whole thing. He has taken over that party, and they've now taken over every level of the U.S. government.
Yeah, I do think there's a risk to responding to every single crazy thing he says, but at the same time, it does have consequences, and it's hard to ignore. But I do agree that what we're seeing unfold in front of our eyes is the completion of the transformation of the Republican Party. It is now solely formed of people who have his support and his supporters, who are very influential, and of people named in his administration who are essentially lackeys and will do what he wants. And the people who did resist in the first administration, like Liz Cheney, who just got a presidential medal, they're threatened with FBI probes. That is the state
She may need a
of the
presidential pardon
country
before
south
Joe Biden
of us, of a retribution government and Republican Party. It's something that's quite concerning when they still call themselves the biggest democracy in the world.
Well, Enrique, you have a congressman out talking about he's bringing back Manifest Destiny, which, if anyone knows about that idea from the 19th century, it was all about white people should take over North America.
I think someone tweeted the Don
it has
Road
a whole lot of
doctrine.
connotations in it, but this is where we're going right now.
Which is like, oh, that's
Yeah, and
fun.
if you look at domestically what all that means, I think that it has really focused Canadians as to the disruptiveness of Donald Trump in a way that I think
House Foreign Affairs
from the summer
Committee
up till Christmas, people were kind of taking it less seriously. So my question is, how much does this change the Liberal leadership race dynamic?
Oh, wait. Like, what the... House Foreign Affairs Committee majority. Our country was built by warriors and explorers. We tamed the West, won 2 world wars, and were the first to plant our flag on the moon. President Trump has the biggest dreams for America, and it's un-American to be afraid of big dreams. Greenland, our land. Canada, 51st state. Gulf of America. Panamaga. That one barely even makes sense.
weeks makes it all the more important. I don't think it's something that they can just pretend that because it's such a short timeline they can't change those rules. They're changing other rules, and it seems like they will have to do something.
Oh, I think it's inevitable. I mean, Marie just
talk about
the Quebec Liberal Party has also already made it.
Can't
I
just
believe.
say, "Oh,
I know
that's
there's
stupid,"
a separation
and move
there
on.
that you got to be a
Again,
permanent
he has
resident or a
nukes.
citizen to vote. It seems like they at minimum need to do that for this, don't you think?
I think every party needs to look at their rules. But in this present situation, I think it's inevitable. I mean, I think I only heard one person today say they didn't really think the rules should change. Everyone else who was asked going into caucus said that the rules needed to be changed and strengthened. To Marika's point, the final Hogue Commission report is going to come out in the middle or beginning of this race.
January 31st.
What if they recommend, and they will, what if they recommend to change those rules and the party didn't anticipate it? That could just, undermine the whole race.
Imagine if your bar is lower than what Justice Hogue says.
What I find quite striking is that we're actually wondering if they're going to change the rules, even though a report said over a year ago that in this case it was conservative leadership races, but we can presume that it's a threat to all leadership races. When a report said that over a year ago, I don't understand how this is still a question and it wasn't anticipated by the party.
And why they didn't address this.
God, the worst Canadian
a year
has
ago.
chimed
The fact
in.
that they've left every decision
The truckers'
until now
convoy was a major reason
They've been a little bit distracted. And I think it's that slow decision-making process that might have led us to this moment, right?
Pretty sure it was
but the Liberal Party is its own institution that can also get its ducks in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not they are pulling the trigger or when they know when to pull the trigger.
I mean, every party has refused to.
Oh, no, but look, the slow decision-making process is one of the frustrations of caucus, and that's what led Jason to a lot of the push, is what I'm saying, right? And so, like, on policy and this, got about 45 seconds before we lose the show. Just what are your thoughts on this? This seems like Marika's right. This is something they got to do, or they're going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah, I mean, the real risks. I mean, everybody wants to, every country seems to want to determine who the prime minister or leader is. So just the reality, I mean, certainly U.S. may have their
put it to a UN vote
with their would-be annexation. Yeah. The other thing that I think that could be on their minds is what's that big raging issue riling up the country? So many people in the country, so many activists in the country. The Israel-Palestine issue.
Yeah.
To have such a flood of members coming in on one side or the other of that one could really skew this race and really redirect where the Liberal government is from their kind of middling thing. So that's going to be something they're certainly worried about as well.
Yeah, they got a copper fast to keep the candidates, the caucus constituents,
if you're describing where they currently are as middling,
the time they have. We got no time left. So I want to thank you all. Jason Markisoff, Marika Walsh, Marie Vastel. And
so bad if
this has been Power in Politics. I'm David
is no
Cochran.
longer lukewarm
we will
and
be
maybe
back
goes
in 22
hot or
hours
cold
with the
in
next
one
edition
direction
of the show. But stay right there. Lots of coverage still ahead coming up here on CBC News Network on Canada.
Middling isn't exactly the kind of description you want for your political position on anything, I would assume. God, it's so goddamn cool.
How can any of this be fair?
I'm just gonna watch some scrums. Oh no, remind me later. We're not gonna be updating OBS right now while we're live, unfortunately. All right, we'll do some morning scrums.
Just 2 seconds to just.
This is them leaving.
Just 2 seconds to.
Did I just grab the wrong one twice? We're all like screaming piggies at the trough, doing scrums today. I love it.
Pourquoi vous avez décidé de ne pas vous présenter finalement à la chefferie? In English also.
Les deux?
This is right after he had announced. This is Dominic
French.
LeBlanc, for those who don't know. This is the current finance minister who had just announced he would not be running for the nomination.
C'était dans la déclaration que j'ai émise il y a une demi-heure. Moi, je suis encouragé, réfléchi, États-Unis et serai à mon tour. So I, as I said in a statement we put out about half an hour ago, I was genuinely touched by caucus colleagues and Liberals across the country who encouraged me to consider seeking the leadership. I know everybody says that, but in my case,
we were all
happily,
screaming, and then his statement went
true.
out, and then it just
So I'm
went
very
dead
grateful for that,
silent
and I
as everyone went to their
this
phones
morning
so they could
reaching out to those colleagues
quote
to tell them
tweet
how
it
much
with
I
basically the
appreciated it.
exact same thing.
But last night, and then after sleeping on it this morning, I decided that
race
the
to
most
see him do it
important thing
first.
I should do over the next few months is my job as Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs. So I've already reached out to Premier Ford, for example. Hope to see him in Toronto in the next couple of days. And I will be solely focused on the real economic threat that American tariffs represent to the Canadian economy and to Canadian workers. It's a full-time job. I'm lucky to have it. And I'll be at the Finance Department very early tomorrow morning.
Voyez-vous comme le meilleur allié pour être capable, justement, résister à Trump? Qui d'autre, si pas vous, est prêt à faire ça?
Mais moi, j'ai pas la prétention de prétendre que je suis le seul, Juliane. Moi, j'ai pas cette prétention-là. Je suis content que vous me dites que plusieurs ont pensé ça. Moi, je suis flatté par cet encouragement-là, comme j'ai dit, mais j'ai un travail quand même à temps plein. C'est un moment important pour l'économie du pays et je vais me concentrer là-dessus et je suis très content.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un d'autre que vous...
Pas qu'est-ce qui va se passer.
Mais justement, le exemple...
Puis qu'on a beaucoup de temps. Puis je...
On the U.S.-Canada committee, would you prefer those considering a leadership bid to step away from cabinet? Would you prefer them to stay on and stay focused? Would you prefer them to not run for leadership at all? What would help Canada in this situation the best?
So you've asked about 4 hypothetical questions, and I want to be nice. It's Wednesday morning in January. I'm not going to answer any of those hypothetical questions. I have a meeting with my colleagues on the tariff issue at 6 o'clock today with officials from Privy Council office. So that work's ongoing. And the decision of who remains in cabinet and who runs, you'll understand, has very little to do with me.
Considérez-vous toujours les propos de M. Trump comme une blague sur le 51e État?
Moi, le soir qu'il a fait ça au souper à Mar-a-Lago la première fois, je l'ai pris comme une blague, il souriait.
Prenez-vous toujours comme une blague avec ses propos d'hier?
Non, je trouve qu'il a beaucoup dépassé l'idée d'une blague. Ça devient... franchement, complètement contre-productif. Moi, j'ai rencontré M. Lutnick à Palm Beach le 27 décembre. On a parlé des tarifs douaniers, mais que le président et ses alliés continuent de répéter ça. On sait que c'est une idée qui va aller nulle part, mais le fait qu'il répète ça, c'est pas tout à fait, constructif.
Pour annexer le Canada, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ce qu'il a dit hier?
Ben, moi, je pense pas que je suis en mesure de dire à M. Trump qu'est-ce qu'il devrait afficher aux médias sociaux. Moi, je peux dire que je trouve, comme ministre des Finances, comme député de Beau-Séjour et comme Canadien, que de répéter continuellement, qu'est-ce qui était au début, je l'ai pris comme une blague au souper à la fin novembre. C'est une façon pour...
Plaisir de vous voir. Well...
And this is our foreign affairs minister, who is also rumored to be considering a run. And that's the kind of thing where, because of Dominic LeBlanc saying he isn't going to run because the threat of Trump's tariffs requires his full attention, if you are in cabinet currently and you have a Canada-U.S. related file like the foreign affairs minister does, Melanie Joly, the first question you're going to be asked if you decide to run is, well, why don't you think foreign affairs requires your full attention right now? So they're either going to have to step down, but even if they step down, then the question will still kind of remain, as in, well, why did you choose this instead of staying on Team Canada and fighting for Canada's interests?
Over the past few days, I've received a lot of support from across the country. And, of course, I've met with my team many times, my core team. And I've been reflecting. And in the context of my reflection, of course, I very much know that I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs at a time where it's extremely difficult with the American administration, the incoming one.
Because I did, in fact, pre-watch this because I'm like...
Et donc, je vais répondre en français.
Right off the camera here. Maybe one ring of reporters behind the front.
En même temps, j'ai eu plusieurs rencontres avec mon équipe de proches conseillers, et je continue ma réflexion. Et je suis très au courant que la relation avec les Américains présentement elle est très difficile.
I mean, that's where it's like, even if he You mean Freeland or the Dominic LeBlanc, the first one? Because if it's the first one, I mean, even if that wasn't his intention, that writes itself basically. Because now if he does stay and he resists these calls for him to reconsider, if he does decide to run, well, that's the same thing. Where I think it's for both. If Jolie decides not to run, because then they can both make that case that they were the sort of elder statesmen who put off their career aspirations to go down with the ship or steady the ship, however dour you think the situation is, and fight for Team Canada. And like there's a sort of like if you're if you're jumping on to become the leader of the Liberals now, it's kind of like it's a you're doomed, kind of. It's a doomed fate. Like, you're probably going to lose one way or another. It's just about, at this point, how badly are you going to lose? Are you going to lose in a way that people are going to say, oh, it could have been so much worse? Or are you going to lose in a way like, oh my God, we didn't even realize how bad it could get? There's like, so those are sort of the parameters of what most people think is possible right now, particularly the polling. So yeah. So that's definitely like probably one of the things she's reflecting on currently is, if I don't jump in this time, when will the next opportunity be? It might be 4 years from now, or it could be 1 or 2 years from now. And it would then give them more time to like set a sort of foundation for that run, talk to more people, build up their sort of campaign chest a little bit.
Et dans ces circonstances, j'ai à cœur mon travail comme ministre des Affaires étrangères, donc je vais poursuivre ma réflexion.
Est-ce que vous devriez laisser votre poste de ministre pour faire campagne? Parce que là, ça créerait un trou à ce moment-là, à un moment critique.
Ça sera au Premier ministre.
All right, 1 second. Dylan's about to call.
Ça fait partie aussi de,
so I'm just gonna grab.
de ma réflexion.
Qu'est-ce qui vous permettra de trancher?
Would you step away from cabinet if you were to run?
So that's the question I was just answering.
And I'm just trying to clarify.
Yes.
Would you? You would step away?
So for me, right now, the question I'm asking myself is, in the context of Canada-U.S., is where can I have the biggest impact? And so, of course, all of these different considerations that you're asking me are part of my reflection.
When are you going to make a decision?
What else is factoring into your consideration?
Well, everything. You know, when this is such an important decision, of course you have to think about your family, your loved ones, my own projects to become a mother, and at the same time to be able to defend Canada's interests. In the context of the Canada-U.S. administration.
Parlez-nous de ce que vous mesurez.
So you know, this is something that not only I'm very concerned about, but we have to be extremely ready. Because the threat of terrorists is real.
Parlez-nous de ce que vous mesurez. Qu'est-ce que vous mesurez?
Vous voulez demeurer ministre tout en faisant la course, là, si je comprends bien.
J'ai pas répondu à cette question-là. Non, c'est pas ce que je dis.
Le fait que les libéraux tirent de l'arrière dans les sondages, on parle de 20-25 points de retard, est-ce que c'est un facteur pour vous? Est-ce que vous vous dites, je serais peut-être mieux d'attendre une prochaine fois?
Non, moi je pense que présentement, les Canadiens, là, ils sont inquiets de ce qui se passe avec la relation avec les États-Unis. Ça crée beaucoup d'anxiété à travers le pays. Les commentaires du président élu sont complètement inacceptables. Et donc, dans les circonstances, ils cherchent du leadership. Puis, ils ne veulent pas un gouvernement laquais comme le gouvernement potentiel de Poilievre face aux Américains.
What do you think Donald Trump is doing with this talk about annexing Canada through economic means?
I think that when President-elect Trump talks, we need to listen, and we need to take him very seriously. I never take his threats lightly. At the same time, we can't take debate. And I think also that we're extremely strong as a country. Can I just finish? I think we're extremely strong as a country. I think our economy is strong. I think our people are strong. And I think we will never back down.
Croyez-vous que les règles de leadership devraient être changées? Beaucoup de gens commencent à parler d'un takeover des trop pro-palestiniens dans la course au leadership. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de toute cette réflexion, cette discussion?
Moi, je pense que dans notre démocratie, les partis politiques ont un rôle à jouer, d'établir des règles qui font en sorte qu'il n'y a pas d'ingérence étrangère, puis que, ultimement, aussi, les partis ont un rôle à jouer dans la suite des choses. Puis moi, je ne fais pas partie de l'exécutif du parti, mais j'ai compris que les gens qui sont au Conseil national du Parti libéral du Canada vont prendre des...
Mais doivent-elles être changées?
A question on the Middle East. Trump made new comments yesterday. If the deal's not reached in the Middle East, essentially all hell's going to break loose there.
Well, he's coming on stream. I'm going on his stream. Potato. One of the two. Whichever one you like.
Their parts to ensure that a deal is met.
So I've worked a lot on the question of the Middle East over the past month. I've been in contact with Secretary of State Rubio. I've been in contact also with Secretary of State Blinken as well. I've been in contact with U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who's been actively involved. I've been also in contact with my G7 counterparts, with Ron Dermer, an important Israeli cabinet member. Basically, I've been talking to a lot of people. I think so. And I know that right now there are discussions between the Americans, the Israelis, the Qataris, and also
I don't know how this works, but there's
Hamas
like
leaders, which of course we don't talk to. And I fundamentally hope that we can get peace in the Middle East. We need to continue to put pressure, maximum pressure, against Iran. Today is a very important day in Canada. It is the commemoration of the PS752 downing by Iran. And I've just talked to the families this morning. It is my promise to them, and it's been my promise now for years to them, that we will continue to hold this outrageous and nefarious regime accountable.
Mais juste les règles de leadership doivent-elles être changées? Vous n'avez pas vraiment répondu. Est-ce que vous pensez qu'elles devraient être changées pour dire, par exemple, on ne doit qu'être citoyen ou résident permanent?
Mais je pense que ce qu'on a appris à travers la commission d'enquête sur l'ingérence étrangère, c'est qu'il y avait un danger que les partis se retrouvent influencés par d'autres gouvernements. Puis je pense que le Parti libéral du Canada doit aborder cette question-là, puis doit trouver des solutions, parce que c'est pas vrai qu'on va fragiliser notre démocratie au sein du parti, mais notre démocratie de façon générale. Puis je pense que dans les circonstances, on ne peut pas se permettre d'erreurs racistes.
Qu'est-ce qui peut permettre Trump?
Raymond, tu m'as déjà posé une question, c'est la dernière question.
Pour revenir au propos de M. Trump, à quel point on doit le prendre au sérieux? Quand on entend le président élu, le prochain président dire qu'il veut annexer le Canada, c'est une menace grave.
Lorsque le président Trump parle, on doit le prendre au sérieux. Ne pas le prendre au sérieux, c'est sincèrement démontrer une insouciance.
Oh, don't I just Chrome? Oh, that sucks. Now I'm on.
Maintenant, on va tomber
I think I have to
dans
go
son piège. Et donc, c'est pour ça que nous, on va continuer à se défendre, on va continuer à démontrer qu'on a une économie forte, que notre monde est fort, puis jamais on va tomber face aux menaces.
Ça serait quoi le l'impérialisme?
Est-ce que vous y allez? Oui ou non?
Well, I'm certainly running in the next election.
Est-ce que vous y allez?
So,
En français?
Les deux, bien sûr. I have had a number of colleagues that have approached me to encourage me to consider it. I certainly have
never mind.
been
Neither of us
considering
knows
it.
how it works.
And I am continuing to have discussions with my colleagues. At the end of the day, I want to ensure that this is a race that is a robust race that discusses important issues. And I have not yet made a decision, but I'm certainly actively considering it. Maintenant, je considère... j'ai beaucoup de collègues qui m'ont discuté
The draft
sur
Jolie movement?
the leadership. Et maintenant...
Well, yeah, and it's like they're calling themselves the Jolly Cool. So I think it might be... Oh. Hello. Oh, wait, I have my voice settings wrong for this. 1 second.
No worries, no worries.
There we go. Now it should be working.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Thumbs up in chat if everyone can hear Dylan.
Great. Perfect.
Hell
How have you been?
Good. I was saying this is the most, it's only Wednesday lemon week I've had since the last week there was news when our deputy prime minister resigned in December.
Mm-hmm.
So
The finance minister, am I correct?
Yes, she double duty, Chrystia Freeland. She was deputy prime minister and finance minister.
Wow.
And she resigned the day before she was supposed to present the sort of fall economic statement, which sort of threw everything into chaos. So that was fun.
That had to do with them finding out, or her discovering through some mechanism, that the deficit is actually much larger than originally projected. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't her finding out because, like, she is the finance minister, so it's her budget that was larger than, but, like, yeah, so it was, like, when she presented the budget in the spring, the sort of financial guardrail she announced was there was sort of a debt to GDP ratio that they were going to maintain, which they did, but they did that with, she said they would keep the deficit under, or the debt under, or deficit under 40 billion, which we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It went up to,
You didn't?
It was like 60 billion, so it was 20 billion larger than originally expected, which is not good. And part of that, I think, was just part of that was like a lot of sort of legal settlements they had to make with First Nations people over a bunch of different things. But then there were things like the promises for this. We currently have this GST holiday, which is just a federal tax that.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. It was like a gift that Trudeau announced that this Christmas season people can like get up to, what was it, like $250 in tax rewards or something along that line.
Yeah, so it was going to be from January 14th to February 14th. GST was going to be taken off of a bunch of things, and GST is just sort of like this federal tax on a lot of things. And then the other part was we were going to get this $20 check, which that didn't really materialize because that was going to be a huge, like it was funny because that was the more sort of straightforward thing that people were kind of happy with, but it would have cost so much friggin' money. And that probably would have made the deficit even larger. So we're not even going to get that anymore. That was already announced that wasn't happening.
I feel like we jumped straight into the deep end. Number one, do you want to turn on your camera? I turned on my camera.
Yes, I can turn on my camera for sure.
And the second thing is, do you want to introduce yourself for people who might not know? Because I see people in my comments like, Dylan is very progressive. You're letting a Canadian on your show. Don't you know where, we have a territorial dispute with them now, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So, I mean, I feel kind of like I'm speaking to, Iraqis in 2003. I feel like that's what's happening right now.
Well, the joke I was making, I was like, is this what the Crimeans felt in, like, I forget what year it was, like, right before they got invaded? Like, this feels weird, like we're about to get annexed.
It's 2014, and you're just like, wait, wasn't that flag yellow and blue a little bit ago? What happened? Why is it coming down?
Yeah, or just you start, like, just hearing Putin start to talk wild shit like our Crimea. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't know how many
our
states
Quebec,
Russia has.
our Montreal.
Yes. Oh my God! You think the Viet Cong were bad? Wait till you're dealing with militias of northern Quebec hockey teams in bunkers made out of Canadian Shield. So yes,
you joke about it, but I could actually picture it right now. I could picture the American anti-French cartoons that are going to come from Quebecois car bombings. I can see it right now.
Yeah, the FLQ is going to make a comeback, and they were first time Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, when he was prime minister, had tanks on the streets of.
You mean Fidel Castro?
No.
No.
I mean, like, and
that's not true. I've been told
adamantly.
I've been told adamantly by so many beautiful bearded men in camo hats that is absolutely true.
No, because they'll point to like the fact that his mom met Fidel Castro, but she met Fidel Castro like I think like 4 years after he was born. It's not, the timeline's all wrong. But I guess to as a matter of introducing myself, my name is Stuart Benson. I am a Parliament Hill reporter in Ottawa, Canada's capital. So I'm like a sort of like a, I don't know, a Capitol Hill reporter for in the U.S. Basically, the same thing. We have a Parliament Hill. I work for the Hill Times. I also stream a bit because I have a brain sickness and I don't know where my like social life ends and my work life begins. So I just don't really try to draw that line. Yeah, and we've been having a real wild and crazy time the past couple of months and years. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy right now because like I'm hearing about Canadian politics, and that's crazy because I don't hear about Canadian politics like
that
ever.
Usually only goes one way. We hear about your stuff, and you're blissfully unaware of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely nothing. It was there was the scandal about the treatment of Native children at in those boarding schools.
Yeah, the residential schools.
The residential schools. I remember that. That was something, and everything else is a blur. And now we're here, and now Trudeau is collapsing. We see conservatives on the come up, and we're talking about like an annexation of Canada, like Donald Trump is like a Paradox interactive gamer, like he's just playing Civilization. We're just gonna annex this, we're just gonna annex that. And he's throwing it out. It's not just about Canada either. He's just like throwing it out randomly. It's Canada, it's Greenland, it's the Panama Canal. I'm trying to think what's next. What we need to do. I know Polymarket has a bunch of different like betting options, and they gave the Young Turks money. They can give me money if they want. That'd be beautiful. But I wonder, here's my proposal for them. Could we do one on what's the next country he's going to threaten to annex? Because I would think maybe the Philippines. There's some like American historical like clay option you can make there since we, took that over from the Spanish during the Spanish-American War. I'm trying to think what else.
Well, someone made that joke where it's like someone gave him a book of American history and he was working his way through it going like, hey, we should get that back. And we should get that back. So, like, I think sequentially, because if I think Panama Canal is the probably latest one or the closest one historically. So I think probably we might be getting to World War II around that, or maybe World War I. So maybe he's like, we need some of those Japanese islands back, or I want West Germany again.
Maybe I could see something like that. Let's hope he doesn't get to the Vietnam War. I'm a little worried like how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of scary. The idea of him just slowly going through the book and saying, I don't want that, I want that. But I could see that. God. You know what really gets me about this though? Did you see the differentiation he put between Canada and Panama and Greenland with the military force and economic force?
I clipped that because I was watching it going like, is this because it like usually when he sort of talks like that. There's a lot of sort of off the cuff feeling to some of it. He very much feels like he's answering a question in the moment, like what he like a Rorschach test. Like he answers the question, first thought that comes to mind. But like when he's like, would you use military force to acquire Canada? And he's like, no, but maybe economic force. Like that's like they've been weighing those options, like how best to acquire Canada. It's
hard to imagine that's a real thing. That they're sitting down and, future Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, between his Fox News segments, and whatever, like RFK, whatever. Tulsi Gabbard bringing all of the intelligence you can imagine. They're all sitting around the table and they're like, okay, so are we going to use an economic strategy to annex Canada? We're going to do this. I don't believe that's really happening. I refuse to believe it.
I'm afraid that I'm afraid we can't let our like a failure of imagination, because like could you have imagined a war in Europe in 2019? Maybe you were probably paying more attention than the average bear, so maybe you could have, but like would most people have? So it's like
probably not. No,
it's one of those things where it's like maybe we don't take them literally, but we should probably take it seriously. Like who knows?
I mean, we should take it seriously enough. I do think we should take it seriously enough, but I mean, I do think the odds of him just kind of like randomly throwing this stuff out there to see what he can kind of get out of it, I think it really is the most likely option, which also does scare me because if some other politician makes that calculation, and then they think, well, let me just see what happens if I call his bluff, and then you put Trump in an embarrassing corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder the type of stuff he would do in a situation like that. It might not be, oh, he's going to drop Marines down in Quebec, and then he's going to, move over and try to... But it could be, you know what, overnight at like 2 a.m. while not talking to his advisors, he announced like a 30% tariff on a crucial... Canadian or Mexican industry that sends markets into a spiral when housing prices are already ridiculously high in Canada. And there's a bunch of other issues that I know that he could try to put a little bit of the pain in. He's trying to rub a little bit of salt in the wound to try to get more favorable conditions.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Canadians may be polite, but we're not not actually as nice as we're made out to be. Like, the old joke is, listen to how Canadians talk about Americans, listen to how Americans talk about Canadians, and then you tell me who the nice ones are. Because we're not that, like, so we've already, we went through this in 2020. Like, it wasn't 25% tariffs, but Trump made tariff threats against us in 2020, and they're sort of, I think, gaming out sort of the same game plan. So, like, there's a list of stuff, and we're not going to do a blanket tariff, but we know what your pain points are. We know you very well. So like we've been like the Canadian like the federal government are like this is what's been reported that they're considering. So there's things like tariffs on steel and aluminum, Florida oranges. The last time we did a lot of Kentucky products like bourbon because the American ambassador was from Kentucky, and is it Lindsey Graham, I believe?
Lindsey Graham.
State. So like steel, because a lot of those come from Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Florida oranges, because that's where Mar-a-Lago is. There's things that we can, and like we'll do that because we don't actually want to hurt everybody, but we'll do it where it'll make the most impact to get our point across. So there is that option that Canada has. I think everyone would prefer neither side use those options, but well, I mean, not everybody, but
I mean, like
consensus is.
This is my problem with and we can get into the like talk about this in actuality in a second, but I think if you want to get my take right off the bat, I think this is an aggressive negotiating tactic by Trump.
Yeah,
that Trump is looking at Greenland. They understand that even though like a lot of this is based in global warming, something he refuses to acknowledge in the first place, but as the global ice sheets continue to melt, it's going to make more raw minerals like cobalt, aluminum, copper is going to be available in Greenland's territory. Already, we've seen a territory the size of Connecticut melt in that area, which is going to making it extremely important. Yes, which makes it 40% faster. If those ice sheets melt, people don't realize how much faster that would be, but it's like 40. I'm talking like Trump right now. People don't realize.
No, you're doing the hand thing. I was noticing it.
His impact on culture is too mighty to admit. But it's 40% faster into Europe. I mean, from Europe into Asia, which is, I mean, it's a huge jump. And not to mention the fact that it's still strategically important because of its location between the United States and Europe for any dedicated Euro-Atlanticist. And so he wants to be aggressive towards them to get the best deal out of them. And when you listen to Danish politicians on this, when you listen to like Greenlanders on this, none of them want to give up Greenland to be a state. And like that recent like PR stunt from Don Jr. going over there was not taken well, I think, by most people.
Yeah.
But I think that they're perfectly willing to give concessions to the United States on these things, to negotiate these things, because every single time I listen to their representatives, it's like, we're not willing to do talk about Greenland's future. That's for Greenlanders to decide. Now, if we want to talk about renegotiating security policy, if we want to talk about mineral rights, I'll hear that again and again and again. And I think that's what it's all about. Yeah. And I think the same thing is about travel in the Panama Canal and possibly some sort of maybe, I don't know, NAFTA 3, or I don't know, NAFTA 3, whatever new trade deal that would be negotiated with Canada.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. It's like a softening us up so that like the 25% tariff threat the annexing Canada threat, so that whenever what he eventually does actually present as the thing he's going to do almost seems reasonable, or like him walking it back, it's that, what's that, the thing from the Trump movies, the attack, attack, attack. Always attack, never admit defeat sort of thing. And to add to your thing about like with the shipping lanes and the minerals, have you seen that show, The Diplomat, on Netflix?
No, I have not.
Okay, never mind, because this is kind of getting into spoilery territory.
I've been watching a lot of Antiques Roadshow.
Yes.
Very
but
good.
All that to say, like, if he has Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal, he would have control over basically all the shipping routes in the northeastern seaboard. Like, that's everything. That's the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, he wants to it's like how do I compare this? It's like at the start of any major shooter where you have all the points and you're just trying to rush A, D, and C so you can grab it right away, and then the rest of the game is just defense.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
He's trying to do that with major shipping lanes. And then once you add the South China Sea, I mean, that's the whole game entirely.
Yeah. Okay, so that maybe he is going for Japan next.
Okay, so do you think this is what's likely the case?
I think so. Like, I think that's the most likely case, is that this is like because obviously, like, he's not even president yet, so it's like this is all. I mean, like, I think it's a lot of it is bluster. There's something else coming. Like, he's trying to like be like, keep your eye over here, and then gonna smack us with the other hand. But yeah, I think it's like, I don't think he's actually going to try and acquire Canada.
I will say, I do feel like there's something else in this. When I look at the public conversation towards Canada, towards Panama, towards Greenland, whether it be popular conservative commentators, American politicians, or that recent tweet, I don't know if you saw it, from the Republican Foreign Affairs
I was just going over that because I saw
committee.
You tweet that. That was freaking wild.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just like I called it in my tweet like a type of neo manifest destiny, because I didn't know what else to call it, because this is the type of stuff I would imagine some so-called progressive like a street preacher would be on the street in like 1830 saying, we must tame the wilds out there for civilization, and etc. etc.
Almost not even neo manifest. Like, they referenced like taming the West. It's like, it's them basically going like, we have a job to finish, basically. Like, we haven't manifested the full destiny.
Let's read this on stream, because some people might not be familiar with what we're talking about. And then I think we can talk about what this would mean in actuality, which I know it's weird to talk about, but we have to entertain it for at least a moment, right? We have to some capacity. Okay, one moment.
I mean, when it's the Foreign Affairs Committee, the majority, that's the part at the end, that part at the end where it's like the Foreign Affairs majority.
Yeah, no, these are not the, like, this isn't like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert committee. These are supposed to be the serious, big heads on foreign policy for the Republican Party.
I was gonna say, this is on X, because I can see the little stupid Grok thing up there.
What do you mean stupid? Is Grok not a side commentator for your stream? Do you not have him hooked up?
To draw a picture of me, and it just makes me look like Nick Fuentes with a mustache, and it's infuriating.
This is very funny. Okay, so let me read this for people watching at home. This is from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. So these are the people in the House who are supposed to be working on foreign affairs issues. It goes through their committee before it would go to the House floor. So these are not only people who are the ones researching these issues predominantly, but these are also the ones that major foreign affairs issues need to go through before it can get to everybody else. Our country was built by warriors and explorers. We tamed the West, won 2 world wars, and were the first to plant our flag on the moon. President Trump has the biggest dreams for America, and it's un-American to be afraid of big dreams. And attached to that little spiel is the front page of the New York Post, which says the Don Road Doctrine, Trump's vision for the hemisphere, which has Canada as the 51st state, Greenland annexed, the Gulf of Mexico turn to the Gulf of America, which Trump has already announced, and this is why I think there's something else in this. He's already announced he's going to do that day one. Mind you, he got elected off of no tax on tips. I'm going to bring the grocery prices down, even though he's now reeled back on that promise and stuff like that. He's made, a lot of somewhat economically populist economic promises. And on first day, there's no big economic relief package promised. It's the first day. We're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Remember when we thought I'm going to build a wall and Mexico will pay for it was the most insane thing anyone had ever said? That seems quaint at this point. It's just a fence at the, he's building the fence, whatever.
It's and it's only going to get worse because during the last term there were a lot of stuff that they tried to do that was cleaned up by the we'll call them statecraft keepers or what I don't know what to call them,
adults in the room, the babysitters, whoever you want to say.
It felt like we'll call them the adults in the room, right? Because that's what they were talked about when I remember the day Trump got inaugurated, I was walking around DC, people trying to calm me down with the idea of the adults in the room will stop him from doing anything crazy. And to some extent, while it was exaggerated, and it was, of course, a percentage of cope, but to some extent it was true that he would throw out a crazy idea. They just wouldn't move on it. They would purposely not bring it up to him again. He'd forget about it, and they'd just move on. And when I listen to him showing invasion plans of Iran to random reporters who have no clearance to see this, when I hear about him proposing invasion plans of Venezuela or fucking the stupid Sharpie Gate stuff where he's changing hurricane paths with his marker just so he doesn't have to admit that he was wrong about that. And we're going into an age of intensified natural disasters, so it's going to be interesting to see 4 years of Trumpian disaster response. That's going to be fantastic. But
another pandemic with the way you get the bird flu stuff.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Oh my God. But I am just unbelievably taken aback by not only the odds I think our country has of facing down bad natural disasters. Progressively worse natural disasters, which our country's going to have to deal with in the next 4 years, which was going to be an issue no matter which way we're going, because we still haven't really tackled the issue of climate change in any major way. We've made a bigger investment, but now much of that investment is going to be rolled back. But when the incoming administration doesn't even believe in climate change, and we're seeing the fires in LA, I feel like it diverted right now a little bit, but god damn, man. It's
the fires. I've been watching those all day. It's terrifying.
It's really bad.
Because I don't know, I'm not good at geography. So I just I reached out to people I know in California. I'm like, I hope you're okay. I don't know if this is anywhere near you, but by the time you see this, maybe it is. So fucking prayers.
But back to this though, when you're reading through this House Foreign Affairs Committee tweet, I think there's something else here besides just negotiating. I think that there's a huge amount of chauvinism in this. There's a huge amount of chest beating in this. There's a huge amount of, and I don't know why it's particularly.
Jesse Waters might have said it best. Where I forget what it was on the Five, one of those panel shows.
I think I have it. I actually have it pulled up somewhere else. One moment. Let me see if I can bring it up. Here it is. I'll just bring it up straight here, and we can just watch it with all the folks at home.
And I tried to divide it into 2 states. And then I realized we'd be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally a Texas for the Democrats. And I don't like that.
Yeah, you're getting a California and another Northeast.
By the way, I hate this way of thinking, by the way. You try to pretend like you're some grand conqueror of the land or of the countryside, and you can come in and liberate this and liberate that through Americanism, and then immediately it's like, ooh, those are kind of a little bit too libtardy. I give up.
Oh, we might have to
smoke
give
too much pot. I give up.
Yeah, oh, you thought, I thought you were the goddamn inheritors of Rome. The Romans didn't think twice. They're like, we're gonna conquer them. We'll give them the vote. Doesn't goddamn matter. They'll be like, have some cojones. If you want us, take us. Come and take them. Molon Labe, as the I don't think I'm saying that right, but whatever the Spartans said.
Yes, I mean, as we all know, the Roman age obviously was collapsed through homosexuality and allowing the gays to vote away all the rights, vote away their Second Amendment, vote away the First Amendment. It was an absolute disaster. And if we allow the Canadians to vote, who knows what type of wacky policies they'll institute? Actually, unironically, even though it's just funny to think about, what would be the major electoral or you think political impacts on the United States if? And this is, I know. I'm not very knowledgeable about Canadian politics, and you're not maybe necessarily the most knowledgeable about all aspects of American politics. But I think if we mush our two knowledges together, we might be able to form one complete knowledge. Yes. So if we actually merged Canada into the United States, as silly as this all is to think about, how would that affect the Electoral College? How would that affect our voting system?
Like everyone keeps saying that the Democrats would crush, and it's like Jesse Waters said, like he was like Ontario is like California, not maybe BC, but like BC doesn't have that. It depends on how you allocated the sort of the Electoral College votes, but like there's no way you're only getting one new state. You got to do 10 at least, and then maybe Alaska becomes gigantic. Because I mean, I don't think you guys care. I would doubt that an American administration would care enough about the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yellowknife to make them separate things. I love the territories. I love you all, but I'm just saying that they wouldn't care. But you'd probably have to do at least 9 or 10. Maybe you'll do the Atlantic provinces as one state. Ontario is definitely its own state, and that's currently led. So I think that it might almost sort of run out as even. I think it may be a slight edge to the Liberals. We're not as lefty as I think you guys think we are.
Yeah, but okay, maybe you're not as lefty as we think you guys, as like some people would imagine, right? But you're also not necessarily an American-style conservative when you look at your conservative movement versus there's a different type of conservatism in Canada. No, I would imagine that you guys aren't all MAGA.
Look at how many of your conservative thought leaders are Canadian.
Yeah, but I thought maybe that was because they're like, oh, this system isn't.
No, it's like it's
dumb enough. Let me jump over here.
No, they go down there because they have those ideas and they can make more money down there. Like it's sort of circular. Where like they go down there, influence your Canadian.
You're telling me that the entire Conservative Party is Jordan Peterson's.
Do you know how many people watched that interview with Jordan Peterson and Poilievre? Have you watched that?
No, I have not watched it.
I would watch it. It's like it's honestly not bad, but yeah, no, it's like they love Jordan Peterson. They're like our conservatives love Jordan Peterson. We had the goddamn truckers. They love Poilievre went out and gave the truckers Timbits.
If Trump ran in Canada, do you think he'd win?
No. No. Because he'd have to become that's the difference. Is the
you seem to like go through waves there in your decision.
If you had acquired Canada prior to the 2024 election and we had voted in that election, Trump probably still would have won. If he
really?
I don't think he would be able to make it to prime minister in the Canadian system. We had Kevin O'Leary tried.
So you think in 2016 it wouldn't have worked? You mean in 2016 it wouldn't have worked, but in 2024 it would work.
No, I mean he would in Canada if he had tried to run and to become prime minister in Canada, he wouldn't have become prime minister. But if Canada had been part of America during I think 2024.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't think he would win in Canada as a Canadian politician, and go on to become prime minister. But I think.
But if Canada was merged into the American system, he could succeed.
Yeah, I think Kamala probably would have still lost, and I think maybe 2016 Hillary might have won. That's the weird thing. It's like yeah. I think Hillary probably still might have won, but then again, Hillary might not come to any of the northern provinces like she did in any of the swing states. So maybe would have surprised you there.
We'll get a Hillary Trudeau ticket. Vice President Trudeau under President Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Oh fuck, that would have been in 2016. That would have fucking in a greater America. If you had swapped like out, and then it's like Chrystia Freeland is like in the cabinet. Oh yeah, no, that like if you take some of the heavy hitters from the Trudeau cabinet, put that in Hillary's sort of like camp with Trudeau as a running mate, I think that would have.
You still get Starbucks CEO as head of the labor relations board. You get all those terrible picks.
Yeah, I think they might have. Well, I don't know if they would have won in a landslide, but they probably would have eked it out. The Liberal leadership race, we just had a surprise billionaire throw his hat in the ring. Everyone waiting patiently, expectantly for the former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England to throw his hat in the ring. And then a former MP who is now a billionaire because he sold his medical technology company is like, hey, I'm also here. I also have $1 billion, and I would like to lead the party.
My goodness. I remember something that really pissed me off is, J.B. Pritzker?
Yes.
I hated how they used him at the Democratic National Convention. They're running against a billionaire, a man who paints everything in gold, and when the country is tuning in to look at your party's agenda, you got a guy saying like, actually, I'm the real rich piece of shit.
They thought, what if we get someone as close to a Democratic Trump as we can find on paper? And they landed on Pritzker.
And it's not like Pritzker's a particularly bad guy or anything. It's just
that's not how it works.
The counter message to somebody like Trump, who's coming to I represent the working class. Say, no, you don't. You're rich. You grew up silver spoon, gold spoon. It's not to take the billionaire, put him in your face, and say we're actually much better at being rich than he is. That's That's a terrible message. Yeah. It's a terrible message.
Well, I was already saying I don't have And I'm sure Mark Carney is a great politician, great guy, nothing against him. But is the billionaire former governor of 2 national banks the best guy to take on populist, common sense, affordability, Pierre Poilievre? I'm prepared to be wrong, as I've been wrong on many things. But, again, doing some quick napkin math, I don't see it.
How about we put forward a compromised candidate, Lauren Southern?
Well, she's currently in line to be one of 4 people who had been called to the bar in the parliament so that our speaker can tell her she's a bad girl for the tenant media shit, and then she can continue to. Yeah, there was a really funny where she got called.
Is there going to be footage? Is there going to be footage of this where we're going to see her in some public hearing with some guy in a funny wig saying "naughty, naughty"?
No, there won't be a funny wig, but he will be in a full black gown, sitting in a throne. With a bunch of other.
You know what? That's good enough for me.
Yeah, no, the pageantry itself will be enough. I will 100% make sure you do not miss that.
Okay, please do remind me.
It's appointment television because
I cannot. Looking back on me debating her about Dugan's daughter's death, what was the last thing to go through his daughter's mind?
Oh no! Oh no!
What? I was just. What? What were you? What's this reaction?
What was it?
What you're saying this as if there was going to be a punchline.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't.
Say there was going to be a joke. But yeah, I mean, that was a terrorist attack. Don't you know that?
Mm-hmm.
That was a terrorist attack. You think I'd make a joke about a terrorist attack on Twitch?
Never.
It was her steering wheel.
That's horrific. Fuck.
But
yeah.
But like I remember debating her about that, and just the fact that after that was done, I was like, it's really weird because she had these translations already, and I'm pretty sure my translations were right, but she said that they were wrong. It was like, oh no, she had Alexander Dugin's personal translator giving her translations of these quotes. What do you mean she had Alexander Dugin's personal translator? Yeah, because she was like, I knew she was friends with him, but it was to the point where she, in preparation for the conversation, was getting Dugin's translator to like help her out. And I didn't realize how like close they were. And I was like, that's like, I thought like they met once. I thought the thing was they met with Dugin once and they just vibed a little bit and they like took a picture. And I knew that I saw the picture, but the fact that she has like personal translator on like speed dial, it could just be like, hey, yo, I'm going to be debating this 22-year-old. I think I was 22 at the time.
Do you
Could
have
you please,
like documentation that she was doing that?
I don't know. I don't have like a document or something, but I believe it was like public record. I mean, I think it just kind of breezed by at the time.
If you could find any sort of link or whatever, because that's made because I mean I don't think I need to explain to you or at your the tenant media stuff, the U.S. indictment. So she was summoned to a parliamentary committee to answer questions about that, and she did a whole sort of like an introductory speech, which basically boiled down to like, under advisement of my lawyer, I will be invoking my like right to not incriminate myself and will be answering questions. And then for like the next 90 minutes, no matter what question she was asked, she basically said that same phrase over and over again. Like she was asked, can you confirm your name? Oh wait, I'm saying I've done this again. Not Lauren Southern. I'm talking about Lauren Chen.
Yep, Lauren Chen was the one who was I mean, Lauren Southern was also involved, but Lauren Chen was.
This is why I keep doing it, because they're both involved. So Lauren Chen was the one who is in committee and that was being called to the bar. I've done this. I have to like every time I report on this, go through a fine-tooth comb that I haven't swapped Chen for Southern. But yeah, so okay, but so never mind. So the Dugin thing is wild. Mm-hmm. Even still, but I was like, that's almost something that maybe some members of parliament should be made aware of. But even then, like if they're like, that shows the sort of closeness they had, which is insane.
I mean, I think Dugin's made a lot of friends in the international far right, and some of like weird circles of the left. But it's like the weird left right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I don't know, Nazboli right, like Caleb Malpins and such people who aren't like solidly on any one side of the spectrum.
Like, I don't know if I believe in horseshoe theory, but it's sort of like Risk, where there is that secret you can go around to the other side of the board link between Russia and Alaska that everyone always forgets about. There's definitely a side entrance that you can loop back around. It doesn't mean that everyone who's super far left will say the same things, but there's a route there that definitely leads.
I feel like there's like some portal somewhere in Siberia where if you go through it and you come out of it, the whole system gets a little scrambled a bit.
Yeah. There's also just someone said where it's like politics personality precedes politics. So like before you were a fascist, you were an asshole. And I think with those people, they were contrarians first, and they've picked a justification for that contrarianism. So it's like it's less about the politics and more that like whatever you say, they're gonna find a political justification to say that's bullshit and we should do something else.
Yeah, they like to be professional opponents. They like to be professionally in the opposition. That's something that they enjoy. So I do. Look, I could talk about the Russians all day, I'm sure, and we can maybe move on to that in a bit, but I do want to make sure we get through the original topic first before we move on to that. So my point was there's just a lot of bloodthirstiness in this, I think. A lot of just, like, Jesse Waters in this 1 second. He does say like his imperialist thirst. He wanted to get
to quench his imperialist thirst. I think was the
quench his imperialist thirst is the quote. I'll play it. I'll finish it.
For the Democrats, and I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst.
You know, this is like played as a joke, but I mean, I feel it's real there. I can feel it.
And I think you sort of touched on it with like the Manifest Destiny. So, maybe it's not imperialist thirst for everyone, but it's like where Alexander wept when he learned there were no more worlds to conquer. With Manifest Destiny, when you tamed the West, there were no more worlds to conquer. And Trump has showed up and be like, actually, I found a bunch of more worlds we can conquer. There's Greenland, there's Canada, there's Mexico. We can conquer a bunch more shit. And that's, I think, where it's like sort of, it is, in a way, it is like sort of reigniting that sort of like original American myth. And in the mirror thing is where it's like a couple of, like maybe even a month ago, and before that, there's been a lot of like sort of debate about like Canadian identity, what it means to be Canada, because famously Trudeau had said that Canada is the first post-nationalist state or whatever, where there's no one core central like Canadian identity. He was making a bigger point, but that's been sort of been boiled down to him doing like, he's the reason why people tore down statues of John A. Macdonald and why everyone hates Canada, blah, blah, blah. But if there was anyone who could reawaken the sleeping grizzly bear of Canadian nationalism, it is Trump, where I've seen serious people, maybe in a joking manner, but because these people are making the joke, be like, do we need a nuclear program? We're like, and it's like, that leads me to like, did you see Iran's tweet?
Iran's tweet? No, I did not.
I think it's like the Iran military, where
Iran has their tweet game is wild, honestly. They do not care.
It was honestly very funny. Well, I mean, darkly funny, but yes. So the tweet, this is from Iran, the official Iran military with the blue check. Just as we have always stood ready to support other nations, Iran is prepared to assist Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Greenland against U.S. aggression and terrorism. Because that was, and even before this tweet,
dude, Hezbollah in Greenland, it's gonna be awesome, dude. Ice Hezbollah, it's gonna be winter, dude. I want to see Hezbollah's winter camo. You can get limited edition winter headbands, brand that shit, sell that on the market. Oh my god.
Yeah, when we introduce to Hezbollah the idea of a balaclava, they're gonna shit their pants. They're like, where's this been all our lives?
Dude, I am not kidding you, man. When I was in eastern Ukraine and you're in those wide open fields mid-December and you're out there training, you're in these like armored vehicles and you're out for 30 minutes staying in the wind while you're trying to film, those balaclavas actually save your life. I swear, like my nose was like turning colors if it wasn't for the balaclava, like surely, my god, a lifesaver.
And I mean, the Hezbollah clava, god, licking trunk, tell ya. But that was my joke, where it's like, Canada probably doesn't have a lot of lessons that we can learn from Iran. But one of them is, we have a shit ton of uranium. We have so much uranium. That is true. And you guys, we send a lot of it. Like, that's the thing where Trump's like, they don't have anything we need. And every Canadian immediately in my comments just started listing all of the shit. Like, you think New York has blackouts now? The East, Canada cuts off that hydro, and I don't think that would happen. But like, we are a very integrated, like, sort of society, and like that's like, I don't know. There are like I'm not gonna say there are arguments for why there should be two countries, because I would very much oppose that. But like, we have a good thing going here, and you and your ego had to come along and fuck it up.
Look, okay, I sympathize with the idea of like, look, okay, let me be devil's advocate here for a little bit. Okay, let me be.
All you had to do was let us.
Let me be the good little white man in the debate class to go in there and say, okay, so about the Confederacy. No, look. So I sympathize with the idea of like, look, we both came from a somewhat similar background. We both came and we settled here. We both have a complex history with native tribes. We both have this fundamental idea about like constitutional republicanism that we agree with, and these things that all ties together. We all mostly speak the same language, but just like there are Canadians that speak the French gobbledygook, we have Americans who speak the Dutch gobbledygook and German gobbledygook and all sorts of gobbledygook all across America in certain subsections of the country. Like go down to Louisiana for a bit. And so for just to dream,
what's the one? The sort of the language in Louisiana, the one,
the French Creole.
That's basically Southern Quebecois. Like you've traced the roots of Southern Creole. That is Quebecois spoken in New Orleans.
So when you look at all of this, and you just take a moment to dream, like Lex had his dream, I have my dream. And my dream
I'm Zelensky in this.
Yes, you're Zelensky. And my dream is
America
adding a few more states, you getting all those beautiful American rights, and us being bigger. And when we're bigger, everyone knows we're better because we're bigger, and therefore we have more everything.
To see Trump try to deal and navigate through the chaos and that is Canadian federalism, like trying to figure out because the provinces have they control their resources. Like there's no there's national resources, but Alberta controls its oil. Ontario and Quebec control their hydro. I mean, I'm probably simplifying it a bit, but watching Trump try to navigate that and deal with the premiers, that's the thing where it's like an economic takeover wouldn't work. If you want 10 more states, you got to take it by force because.
Yeah, they're gonna have to come in and they're gonna have to burn down the whole system and rebuild it Americanized.
Yes, the whole system.
We're gonna have to do with what we did with Japan, but with you guys.
Yeah, it's the thing where it's sort of like here. I think a good analogy for.
Oh my God! Can we make Lloyd Austin MacArthur? He's going into retirement. He needs something to do. He can be like your MacArthur. He can roll over you for like 6 years or something.
Yeah.
You're losing Trudeau. You needed somebody to take the job anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole other kettle of fish where we're trying to figure out. They're still trying to figure out how the replacing him will work. Because that's the funny thing where, so Trudeau hasn't officially stepped. He's still fully the prime minister.
But I mean, I saw him do his speech where he said he talked to his kids. His kids said, "Dad, you lost," so he gave up.
No, so he told his kids, and then on Sunday, and then on Monday he told Canada that is your ceiling falling down, or just saw a lot of
was my
dust?
ceiling falling down? What?
I just saw a lot of dust fall down, so I wasn't sure.
Oh no, I just look.
You were
I like nice
spray.
scents.
Oh,
Like a
okay.
little
That's okay.
Just wanted a nice scent. Okay.
So the wording is very. He said he intends to step down as prime minister and leader of the Liberal Party following a robust and nationwide search and selection of a new leader. So he's still the prime minister, no asterisks. He's not a lame duck in any way. He's still fully the prime minister. And then once the Liberals, I guess, elect a new leader, he will step down, and that new leader,
once they pick a better loser, because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, right? But you guys are I'm not saying you guys as in you're a liberal, but the more left-leaning factions within power are fucked right now.
Yes.
And I feel like it really is a question of whether or not the liberals are even going to be the main opposition or not.
Yeah, no,
and I feel like that's the question right now. If they're going to get leadership,
it can fourth party.
Yeah, it's bad.
Not even opposition. There's that scene in, I don't know if you've seen War Horse, where it's like they're all charging on their horses towards I think it's a German machine gun line in the forest. And it's all of them on the horses, and then it cuts to the machine gun line, and then just the horses are running past. It kind of feels like whoever's the leader is like volunteering to lead that
charge into the machine gun line. Yeah.
There was the person. Our first female prime minister. Oh God, because I keep wanting to say the wrong name, so I'm not going to say the wrong name. Just let me Google. So Kim Campbell. That's the thing that's been rolled out, is because the Liberals haven't had a female leader yet, and Canada's first female prime minister was prime minister from June 1993 until that November when she lost the election, because she took over for Brian Mulroney, and then so she was the prime minister, no asterisk, but like just she was never elected because she became the leader of the Conservative Party, became prime minister. The very next election she lost. And that's, I feel like, a potential fate for whoever comes on, is to just win, to become. Yeah,
look, you got to take an L for your party. You got to go out there, run the best campaign you can, because if you don't, then the Conservatives are going to dominate the parliament to such an extent that it could risk undoing. This is presumably from the Liberal perspective, mind you. I'm not really that depth in your politics, but I'm presuming here, because you don't want to undo the last 9 years of progress, presuming you see the last 9 years of something that was progress.
Well, I mean, that's the thing where it's like when Trudeau showed up and joined the Liberal Party, they had a handful of MPs. They were in like fourth place. They had been decimated, and the term that was used is they were out in the wilderness. And he showed up, found the corpse of the Liberal Party, skinned it, wore it as a skin suit, and the Liberal Party has been Trudeau for the past 9 years. And he came in a wave of good feel. Everyone loved him. Sunny ways. He was the boy prince.
And now he's sunk.
Yeah, and now it's sort of completely reversed.
He's got like a 22% approval rating. I saw was the rate. It's like he's got a low approval rating than Biden right now by like 10 points.
So there's the Green Party, the NDP, Bloc Québécois, NDP, and the Liberals. And did I say the Conservatives in there? Green, Bloc, NDP, Liberals, Conservatives. So there's 5 parties in the House of Commons that the Greens don't even have official party status. The Conservatives are polling that they could get 50% of the national vote among 5 parties. Have a 246 seats in Parliament when you only need about 170 or so for a majority. Massive, historic potential majority they could win. And so the Liberals could go back to where they were, because that's the thing where it's like there's been no sort of like the party hasn't grown that muscle and sinew around Trudeau. So like when Trudeau leaves, it potentially just falls back into nothingness. And there was an argument from people in who supported Trudeau, or even maybe said it was smart for him to stay on, that this is his loss to take. Why would you tarnish any potential successor by having the first chapter of their leadership being this historic loss to the Conservatives, rather than
is this something that is this something you agree with as well?
From a political strategy wise, it's probably better for them to switch out and, as it were, save a furniture. From a return to honor, my soldiers rage sort of perspective, absolutely I agree.
Fall with your men, fall with your men on the mountaintop.
He should be the one leading the horse charge. Absolutely.
I agree morally. I agree in the same way you agree.
Yeah.
But also, if you guys don't want the Conservatives to dominate literally everything, you have to run with somebody that can offer some vision outside of, how about we give you a tiny tax rebate this Christmas that probably worsens our already not great deficit.
I'm not miffed either way. I'm honestly kind of, I think it'd be going to be interesting covering a conservative government, because it'll be such a huge contrast to have a government that's kind of.
By the way, I want everybody at home to see this: that us in the media sphere, we don't care if you guys all starve to death or if you have all your rights taken away. We just want to make sure that we can giggle and report on it and make all the money from your clicks.
Well, if you listen to Polyev, people are starving now, and they won't have to go to food banks when he becomes prime minister. So I'm actually I'm ambivalent, but like that's why where it's like it almost feels like the conservatives are gonna win anyways. So why not die with honor? They're not gonna die, but like go down like fight that fight.
You gotta take the least disastrous L possible. You gotta try to keep the ship together as much as possible going into the future.
Yeah. Trudeau
if you want
to an undefeated prime minister who served for more than a decade, and I think considering where he is and how Canada views him, this is even a stronger argument to switch him out, because then it's like if the whole country's going to get him out of relief out of humiliating him, then it makes even more sense to switch him out, because it'll make an even bigger disaster. Yeah, I mean that's the thing where it's like from a political strategy wise, it's probably the correct decision. But I mean like from a political strategy angle, it should have been much sooner.
Do you think we should compromise and just run someone else, but have Trudeau be out in like a dunk tank at the Liberal Party conference or something?
I mean, I think that might be what the Liberal leadership race might turn into, is just like, here's why I'm not gonna fuck up like the last guy. We're like, because that's what a lot of leadership races turn into, is one, here's why all of my other colleagues suck, and here's why the last person sucked. But hold that. I need to pee. I've had so many Red Bulls and coffees today. I'll be right back.
Oh, no worries. Hello, chat. Let me look at any comments or questions you guys might have. We're just vibing. We're just chilling. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to Stuart Benson. He is a friendly fellow, also known as Left Hand Stu. He reports on Canadian politics on their version of Capitol Hill, which is called, I guess, the Parliamentary Borough, or something along those lines. Something, I don't know, the Moose Cave, whatever they call it. Dylan streaming Dylan. Yeah, I am getting a little bit of Dylanception here in Discord. A little bit of Dylanception. I got my camera up, then his camera, which also has my camera. And now I also have my stream up like that. Oopsie doopsie. As an American, the only Canadian politician I remember is Rob Ford. Well, that's the only Canadian politician you really need to remember. And I'm a little angry that the next Civ 7 is not going to have Rob Ford as a leader of Canada. I mean, look, they had Harriet Tubman as an option for the United States, and she was never a president. And I'm like, that makes sense because Harriet Tubman is a different type of leader, and you can describe leadership in many different ways. Well, Rob Ford is also a different type of leader. He inspires me in ways as a man that another leader couldn't. So I think he should be a Civ 7 civilization leader. I think it's only fair.
I have returned. Sorry about that.
Hey, we were just saying, you know Civilization, the game?
Yes. Love it.
So, the next game they're releasing, you can have different types of leaders for nations.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're releasing types of leaders that weren't traditionally like presidents and stuff like that. Like Harriet Tubman is a leader for the United States. Yes. Because she was a different type of leader. And I think that's really cool. And so I thought, Canada is a potential civilization. So, why can't Rob Ford be a leader for the Canadian civilization in Civ 7, which is coming out soon? I think that's only fair.
Well, they might give it to his brother, Doug, who's the current premier of Ontario. He was on Jesse Waters' program, I think, 1 or 2 days ago.
Yeah, but Rob is the fun one and is the only one I care about, really.
I have more than enough to eat at home guy Have you seen that clip?
Yeah, I have seen that clip. That clip's fantastic. Do I have to play this clip again?
You don't,
you know what?
You don't have to, but I mean, if it's your show.
I think many people might not know.
Yeah,
many people might not know.
The heritage moment part of it. Wait, someone just rang my doorbell. One second.
This is Canadian culture. Yeah, here it is.
They're calling a friend of mine a prostitute. Alana is not a prostitute. She's a friend, and it makes me sick how people are saying this. So unfortunately, I have no other choice. I'm the last one to take legal action. I can't put up with it anymore. So I've named the names. Litigation will be starting shortly. I've had enough. That's why I warned you guys yesterday, be careful what you wrote. Okay, so that's all I have to say for now. And the next thing I want to call Mayor Britannia in Hamilton and tell them that we're going to have to spank their little tiger cats. Oh, and the last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy, Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life to her. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home.
What about drinking and driving, Mayor? What about drinking?
Oh my God, man. You just have to respect him. You have to respect him. You just can't.
Yeah,
my goodness.
I mean, he was the last Canadian to, and like he was on Kimmel, and now his brother is all over Fox, sort of like being like, "Hey, don't annex our country," because like the automotive industry in Ontario is huge. We send you so many cars. We build a ton of cars for you guys. Yeah, but oh yeah, go ahead.
There's one thing I wanted to break down a little bit here before I get to the actual, because I wanted to break this down a little bit more before I moved on to any other topic, because I want to make sure I can get the segment on this. So
absolutely,
I really am pondering the amount of people who this election pitched this last race, and I know this is a little bit of a step into American politics, but pitched this race as horrible warmonger Joe, who's sending all the weapons to Ukraine, sending all the weapons to Israel, who's doing all these really war things, war-related things, right? Whether the weapons are good or bad, it doesn't really matter. It's all war, and war's bad, war, right? He's the warmonger.
Yeah.
Trump, he's coming in. He didn't invade Iraq, even though he supported it, but most people forget that. But he didn't invade Iraq. He didn't do these things. He didn't start any new wars as president, is the usual pitch. And so the pitch going for Trump from a foreign policy viewpoint was, this guy is a peacemaker. He's a dove in some way. They didn't talk about how he increased drone strikes and restricted the amount of data on them. Like, none of this mattered. The fact of the matter is he didn't have an Iraq on his name. He didn't have an Afghanistan or one of these types of things on his name, even though he maintained many of these wars through his administration.
He continued Obama's drone strikes. Did you say that?
He not only did he continue Obama's drone strikes, he expanded Obama's drone strikes. Yeah, he increased them and restricted the amount of data that journalists could access on them. So it was also harder to try to study exactly what was going on. So we don't know exactly how many drone strikes happened during the Trump administration. But now Trump wins, and immediately it's, we'll do Just Cause 2 in Panama. We'll invade Greenland if they don't submit to us, even though they're technically protected by the same Article 5 protections as the rest of NATO allies. They're part of Denmark. Same thing with Canada. Even if they're threatening financial pressure, I mean, considering the way that this conversation has gone, I wouldn't be that surprised if some sort of physical threat was not far behind. Where is all of this fucking peacemaking that I heard so much about? And where is all of these same people who were peaceniks just a few weeks ago, who are now coming out and posting fantasy maps of what parts of Canada their favorite states get to cannibalize?
Why? Because it wasn't about them before. Helping Ukraine, how does that make me happy as the average American citizen? But having more land, making America the sort of the tongue-in-cheek argument you made about, wouldn't it be nicer? Wouldn't it be wouldn't we all just get along and be bigger and show everyone how much strong we are? That's basically, I would say, would probably be most people's argument, is well, we're already so close, and it would make there'd be this we'd be more secure. Trump almost made that argument where it was like sort of a peace through strength argument. We need Canada for security reasons. So I think like I don't think that the people who support it see it as like a contradiction. I mean, obviously it is a contradiction, but I don't think that like most of them see it as such. They see it as almost it being more peaceful. Like it's the same. Again, not to I don't want to make any. I'm not saying Trump is Putin, but that's kind of the argument Putin was making.
No, by the way, absolutely. No, I'm on board with Trump is kind of Putin.
I'll let you do
like,
that.
This is all very Putin-y.
These are like, and that was the kind of point I was making. Okay, this is spoilers for The Diplomat. I'm sorry, but there's a whole thing where like something happens where they squash Scottish independence because Scotland has like a nuclear sub like detection base. And if Scotland had gone independent, NATO would have lost access to that. So they draw like a line through the Atlantic and we're like, this is where we saw all these Russian subs. These are where they disappeared and we couldn't see it. And it's like, but on the opposite of that line is Greenland and the U.S. So there's trading lines, but it's also NORAD. NORAD would be like, that's who. So like, I mean, if you want to make that comparison between Trump and Putin, like if Trump's acting Putin-esque, then do you want Trump to have control of all of the first like notification systems for an attack on North America?
Oh, I'm excited about a lot of things in the next administration. The idea of Tulsi Gabbard having access to basically the vast majority of our intelligence resources is extremely exciting. I mean, it's certainly something that'll keep my attention, and that's, I need things to preoccupy my time, so I thank the incoming administration for increasing my amount of gray hairs in my youth.
I pride myself on having, like, thank you, Mom. The genetics are great. I'll be bald by the end of this year. For, like, not a hair on my head. Because it's like, Trump gets inaugurated on the 20th, and then, like, we have till March 24th, Parliament's prorogued for them to find a new prime minister, not just a new leader. And then that'll probably immediately lead into an election. And that's just those things. That's not counting everything else that's going to be happening while that happens.
The thing that scares me about Trump is like, and look, I'm not going to say like presidents were particularly restrained by like certain amount of like moral dilemma, or that they're all particularly dedicated to their ideology. Many of them are very self-interested, but there was some underpinning of ideology somewhere in someone like Biden or someone like Harris, or in a lot of people who could get that office, that was like, it is bad what Russia is doing, on the idea that it's not legal, it's not a good framework, and not a good justification. But I was always concerned from when Donald Trump immediately responded to the invasion by saying, "Oh, dude, that's fucking genius." I don't think that's that was his immediate reaction. Thought of that. It wasn't, "Oh my God, that's so horrific." It was like, "Oh, that's a really smart move by Putin." Like he was playing like a game of Civilization or something, and he just, he just got like a good resource. Like it wasn't like these aren't real people. And that really scared me. And then when I listened to him talk about Panama, as if like our people died there because, we all caught malaria while we were going on our colonial adventures, and like that's now our blood and soil myth for Panama. The way he talks about it, the way he's talking about Greenland, he's talking about it in the same way that Putin talks about Crimea and the naval port there and the military port there, that these are things that are important for Russia's sovereignty, for its security interests, culturally, and therefore it is ours, and we can do whatever the fuck we want with it, and we're just gonna take it. And look, and the world kind of accepted that the Russians could do that to a large extent at the time. I think that, maybe the better position was, hey, compromise with the Ukrainians. That was the moral position, even though I think the dedicated anti-imperialist position would be, it's their land. You got to make an agreement with them. If you could make a deal, pay them money, do something. I don't know, but if you want to have your stuff there, you have to make a deal in that way. I don't think that deal making that's their land, it's their sovereignty, so we have to come to them and make them happy, because I don't think Trump believes in that. No. I think that's why he thinks that was a smart move. I think that's why he's conjuring up blood and soil about Panama, and I think that's why he's saying that it's such a vital security interest in Greenland that he can make these types of military threats. And so that's the thing that scares me, because I think that same itch that allowed Putin to think of that way is the same thing he has. And that's, while they're not the exact same person, because he didn't do all the crimes he did, and Putin hasn't done some of the crimes Trump's done, but that same itch is there for both of them.
And I mean, I don't know if this is a difference with Putin, but I think what explains Trump is he looks at geopolitics, like everything else, as he's doing business. It's just business. That's why they're using
everything's a deal.
They're talking about acquiring Canada, not annexing Canada, not invading Canada, not acquiring. It's a hostile. He's thinking of it as like a hostile takeover. Like, this is America is one business, Canada is another business. He would like to acquire Canada as
he'd like a merger.
He wants or just make America a subsidiary or an asset of the U.S. Same with Greenland. These are he would like to. I would like to
buy him out.
You can't buy a country, but that's how he's talking about it. There's no seller. No one's selling it. You can't buy
$5.
Yeah, you can't buy 51% of Canada's stock, and now you I mean, I guess
$25.
Yeah. How much could a nation be, Michael? $10?
30.
That's the thing where he sees, and that's why he thought it was smart, because he's like, oh, I wish I had thought of that somehow in my business career. He's not seeing it as the actual human reality of it. That he's seeing it through that viewpoint, I think.
I mean, it's all. I mean, I think I don't think there's any there's nothing attached to it outside of deal making and what he can get out of it. I mean, when he starts talking, I don't know if you heard him say the people of Greenland want to be part of America, they'd probably vote for it, etc. It's just all complete nonsense. It's all just completely conjured up bullshit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the hope was that somebody listening to it might not be smart enough to use a computer, or they might not they might not care enough to go look it up in the first place. But this is something that no one's gonna believe, but at least it's just hot air that he exudes while he's gaining leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, where it's it's this this sort of loops us back to the beginning, where it's all he's softening us up for the actual thing that he wants to do or will do.
So last thing before we move off of this, and we can talk about something else for a bit. If the United States actually invaded Canada, let's say that it got to a point where, the Canadians were just not willing to make the compromises to Trump's generous offers of annexation, and troops crossed the border, and he actually made the decision to invade. I know it's not going to happen. We don't live in, the Fallout series, whatever. Mm. But if it did, what would the reaction be from Canadian society? What do you think would play out?
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, I've never the almost immediate reemergence of Canadian nationalism and this is ours, fuck off. A lot of, and some will say this is more the liberal view of what Canada is, but for a long time, what Canada was keeping the Americans on their side of the fence. You get your shit, we have ours, stay over there. We might do very similar, but that's your side of the fence, this is ours, sort of thing. So I think that would be I think the sort of, I guess, not the nuclear option, but the last case scenario is the risk option. You just let the Russians and the Chinese through the back door. like if you want to take like that, like a lot of your first alert systems for like a nuclear attack from Russia or from a sub or an invade, like if America's gonna be invaded, they're gonna be invaded from Alaska, and then they're gonna come down the western seaboard. So all right, you invade us, we just let the Russians come in, and then there's a land war between Russia and the U.S. In North America. So all right, like I mean, that would be my thing, is just do a Temple of Solomon thing where we just bring the whole shit down on top of everybody.
I can maybe believe the Chinese right now. I don't know if I'd believe a Russian landing in Alaska right now with much.
No, but they could
maybe in 20 years.
I feel like they probably have a bunch of subs just waiting just outside, and could launch a bunch of rockets and get.
I'm sure they could launch stuff. That's for sure.
And get them a lot deeper and closer into North America without the pre-warning from flying all the way over Canada. Like that's, I think one of the that's one of the things that Canada has been like a human meat shield for the U.S. if the Russians or the Chinese ever fire like you gave us nukes during the Cold War, so that we could fire them for you because they'd get to Russia quicker. And also again, the phrase Geneva suggestion, we came up with that. We're the reason that exists. Read your history books about what the shit Canada got up to in World War I. That, I think, would be the reaction if U.S. actually invaded. I don't know if we'd win, but we'd make it hurt.
It's just I'm just so baffled by just all of the signaling one direction on the campaign trail of the peacemaker. He's the peacemaker. The world is so much in chaos that he's not even in office. He's causing so much chaos diplomatically. And if any of this was to actually get the trigger pulled on it, would mean like Americans like coming home in coffins when we couldn't even send weapons overseas, with it being like considered like too much chaos for American foreign policy, too much risk, too much expense. But now we're gonna not only do that, expend weapons, but blow up our weapons and expend lives. And it's for me. This is why I won't be that surprised if a country ends up calling his bluff, which is the one moment where I'm going to be most fearful, because I don't think Trump wants to risk getting embarrassed.
No. And I think like it's because he sort of knows how like the other thing where it's like the first time around, the quote unquote adults in the room were able to, I guess, be as effective as they were. And you can debate how effective they were, but they were because they were dealing with metaphorically a child to politics. Trump didn't really know how many of these levers worked. It was his first time doing the job. This is his second go around. He's more experienced this time, so he'll probably be a lot harder to sort of dissuade or whatever, and he'll know to not surround himself with the people that would dissuade him from those things. So like again, like it is one of those things where like everyone says stand up to a bully, but there's that scene in Recess where like I think it's Gus is getting bullied, and he stands up to the bully, and the bully kicks the shit out of him until the rest of the gang shows up to help him. Like that's the thing where if you do like call his bluff, it's not like a Saturday morning cartoon where he's just gonna, oh no, I'm a coward actually, where I'm not gonna retaliate. He's going to be like, actually, I'm bigger than you, and I'm going to kick the crap out of you, either economically or with military force.
Even in some instances where it wouldn't make much sense out of what they would gain by pulling the trigger on something like that, they might be able to convince themselves that if they don't pull the trigger, they're going to lose a certain amount of credibility and deterrence and respect for being able to use the same tactic in the future and get stuff for nothing else outside of like a little bit of strong arming, and they're going to go through with it just so they can prove that they can make good on their threats. And so it's a lot of times somebody would think they've done the calculation right, because they're like, well, we know that if they were to attack us, they'd lose this much, which would cost more than what they even want out of us. So But sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes you're just one part of a much bigger picture or a strategy that they want to uphold.
Yeah. And I think probably like we said.
And Trump loves the madman thing. He loves that perception of himself.
Canada probably has, if we're being realistic, not that much to worry about on that front. No. I am maybe a little concerned about Mexico.
I'm also worried about Panama. I think he might.
Yeah,
because in his mind is like Panama, anything that's in South America, he's like, I think that's okay to invade. I don't think he'd do Greenland. I think Panama is within the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like it because that would be one of them that would try to like stand up to him. Like, I think you saw the Mexican president. I forget what she said today, but like that, like they've already sort of been kind of priming that with sort of like. You heard Fox pundits being like, we should invade Mexico, sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's some advisors, some people who are advising Trump that have said that they want to send troops into Mexico to fight the cartels with or without the consent of the Mexican government.
Mm-hmm. Which would be an invasion.
Yes.
So it's like that. Like that's, I think, probably the biggest concern. Is I don't think Canada, like he would, like even Trump was like, we wouldn't do military force, but economic force. So a trade war, maybe that is a definite concern. I think. I don't think anyone in Canada is seriously concerned that we're going to get invaded by the U.S. I think we are. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the concern is the economic stuff, like.
And there seems to be real concerns because the finance minister that resigned, one of the reasons she gave was that Trudeau would not be able to deal with Trump pressures, which is that surprised me. I mean, after 9 years in the office, you would imagine that they'd have that basic confidence in him to.
Well, there's a part of that where the flip side of that is maybe when she says that. What Freeland meant was that she felt she was not going to actually be leading that. Because if you'll recall, the first time around in the first Trump presidency, Chrystia Freeland led she was captain of Team Canada. She led that for Trudeau. Even though when she said she was resigning, it was because she was told she was being shuffled out of finance and was going to be tasked with leading the Canada-U.S. relations. But when Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago, and then when, he didn't bring Freeland. He brought Dominic LeBlanc, the new finance minister. So there's a part where, when she says, I don't think, there's a part where maybe she was like, well, if I'm not going to be leading this, I think I should be leading this, and if you're not going to put me on it, I'm not going to stay around. And there was this has never been confirmed, but sort of the rumor was that at some point after meeting Chrystia Freeland, Trump said, "I never want to be in a room with that woman again." So it's like that. And I mean, if you know anything about Chrystia Freeland, it's unsurprising that a man like Trump would not like Freeland. And that
is she a very strong-headed woman,
very strong, competent. Intelligent woman who is it would be not surprising to me that he would not like her, and that is I feel like I don't have to explain that I intend that as a compliment to Freeland. So I think there was always that hanging over it, and it's just sort of she decided that she'd taken enough, and then coupled that with being she'd been told that on the Friday, and then was told she was expected to still present this $20 billion over budget federal economic statement. And it's there's a reason why companies fire you on a Friday and then don't tell you, actually, can you be in on Monday to present the Q4 numbers for the company? No, they fire you and tell you to go home and don't come back. They don't fire you and then give you more work to do with that job and hope you do a good job. So there's a part of that where you're like, how did you not know that was coming? But
Dark Canuck, thank you so much for the $3 Canadian. Yeah, I'm wearing my flannel in solidarity with Canada. That's the idea. I appreciate it. I think I got through most of my Canada stuff. Outside of that, I guess I would say So you think strategically it was the right move for Trudeau to resign after 9 years, but like emotionally you wanted to see him fall on the sword, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, not even fall into the sword, but just sort of like this is your like charge to lead. And if it ends, like, you're the general that led the army to this point, and if you've led them to like a defeat, then you don't
lead from the front.
Yeah, you don't assign it to someone else to continue leading so that you can go home unscathed.
So let's say this is the end of Trudeau. He resigns in a month or two. He's taken over by somebody, whoever it's going to be. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to be an Anglophone because last time it was a Francophone. Or no?
No, you like.
Does any of this matter, or is this all bullshit?
There's a bit. So one of the another favorite who's sort of an outsider, kind of like a more conservative coded. And a woman, Christy Clark. She was the former premier of BC. She's sort of in the conversation of people who can run. And everyone says she would do phenomenally well. However, she cannot speak French. Like, she's learning French, she's getting better, but it's not to the standard of, like, she could have, like, a conversation and you would know immediately that she's, like, practicing Duolingo at home. And that will not, like, Pierre Poilievre has really good French. And she might as well not show up to the French debate with her level of French, because she'll just get outclassed. And the only place where Pierre Poilievre is not winning, is not in the lead, the only province is Quebec. Quebec is one of the four, like, legs of the table, or four pillars of the Liberals, and if she can't speak French, it's going to be a real big. It's not one of these things where they have to go back and forth. Like, almost all of the successful Liberal prime ministers have been Quebecois.
Damn.
Or had really good French, and they were able to.
But I heard the next one had to. I thought there was like a cycle. It was Anglophone, Francophone, Anglophone, Francophone. Or was that nonsense?
There's no rule or custom to that. Maybe if you go like back for their, like, the actual pattern of their last leaders, maybe it follows that pattern. But if you actually look, the ones that have won have all been either Quebecois or had very good French. To a point.
Okay, well, the point I was getting to, this is all beside the point anyway. Trudeau hangs up a hat, hands it over to the next person. What is Trudeau's legacy? Because for most Americans looking at Trudeau, all we know is that he was the guy who was young. His father was involved in politics to some extent, so he came from some dynasty, and that he was cute. And therefore, he was the cute Canadian prime minister that represented, like, free healthcare or whatever, because that's what Canada is to Americans, right? So for most Americans, we have no clue really what his legacy is. Even though he's been prime minister for 9 years, that's longer than any recent American president's able to be president of the United States. So if he was to step away now, as it looks like it's happening. What's his legacy, and how does that change based upon the Liberal Party's performance in this election? Does it change at all?
Yeah, no, I don't think. I don't think his legacy will be affected by the performance of the Liberals in the next election, because I think even now that's baked in. I think if the outcome changes, or it's improved somewhat and they don't lose as badly as they're expected to, or, like, miracle of miracles, the Conservatives win and it's only a minority, and that sounds nuts if you are paying attention to the polling. But, like, as far as his legacy, so one easy one is cannabis legalization. That's, like, he made cannabis legal in, like, nationwide. So this one's and like I'll go the good and the best. So this one's kind of controversial, but so when he was running for the leadership, one of the promises he made was that he would get rid of all of the boil water advisories on every First Nation community in Canada, because chronically up until that point, I don't know if it's all of them, but it might as well have been every single First Nation community had just not potable water, like water that you had to, that you basically, as its term suggests, all of the people, anyone who was connected to the water was advised to boil the water before they consumed it. And in a lot of places, like, you couldn't even bathe in the water. It would make you sick. So and there has been progress on that. They have brought in, they have gotten rid of a lot of the boil water advisories. But the problem is when you promise to do all of them, everyone just focuses on the ones you didn't get. So he didn't fulfill that promise completely, but that is one of them. We now have, there's like $10 a day childcare. There's like, we've brought in now
$10 a day childcare is actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can get it, it's not a universal program, but for its. But
is it for like low income households?
Yes, it's sort of a subsidy. So the government subsidizes this program so that like the charge is $10 a day. He's expanded, introduced just recently like a pharmacare program that initially will make contraceptives and diabetes medication free. Which, if you're diabetic,
initially,
well, if they had more time, they said they would have expanded it to other things to make it truly like universal pharmacare. Dental care, they've introduced dental care for low income Canadians and seniors, which is a national program. I said there's, I mean, this is another one that's super controversial. Is the carbon tax. And that one actually may be affected by the outcome of this election, because one of the first questions any of these Liberal leadership contestants will be asked is, do you think we should get rid of the carbon tax? Because Poilievre, his whole thing is this should be a carbon tax election, an election on whether we keep the carbon tax. Do you know that's like a tax on like carbon emissions?
Yeah, tax for companies or for like individuals?
It's on like companies. Individuals get a carbon tax rebate, so we get like some money back from like every 3 or 4 months in Canada.
Gotcha.
For that, and it's like but like the argument from the Conservatives is that tax is on everyone because it taxes the people who grow the food and who truck the food and who package the food, all that shit. I'm just repeating conservative talking points at this point. So that one, like how this leadership.
That's fine. You know, I'm happy having right wing guests on. You know, we're a left wing show, but we have a lot of different people.
I am wearing the blue, so. But that's the thing where depending on what the winner comes out and says, well, actually we're gonna scrap the carbon tax. Like two of his main legacy pieces and things he can hang his hat on is the carbon tax and cannabis legalization. Another one that I think people may not have reckoned with yet is gender balanced cabinet. And you actually may it actually spawned a right wing meme because it's the current year. You may have heard that. So when
is it?
Yes.
I need to catch up.
Yeah. So in 2015, when he first became prime minister, he introduced his cabinet. So it's all the members of his party who will be finance minister, all the different ministers. And it was gender balanced. So the same amount of men as there were women. And he was asked, why did you think it was important to have a gender balanced cabinet? And he answered simply, because it's 2015. And I would reckon that Poilievre, when he is elected, will have as close to a balanced cabinet as possible. And I think that will be a legacy. Trudeau.
We don't got anything like that on our side. Oh my God!
No,
did you see Trump's cabinet picks? Yes. Oh my God!
Because no one set that standard and come out and owned it and be like, I'm doing it specifically so it is gender balanced. Because now, if Poilievre comes out and his cabinet is 70% men and 30% women, that's gonna be a headache. And he'll I think I would if I was going
just to avoid the issue, do you think?
Yeah, I'd put I would probably like I'll make you this bet like plus or minus 2. So like either 2 more men or 2 more women away from balanced. I think he will have a balanced cabinet.
How many cabinet positions are there?
However many he wants. That's the thing where he can just make a new cabinet position out of thin air. Trudeau's done that a lot. Like the cabinet inflation is a legitimate issue in federal politics because they all get their own driver and they all get a pay bump and stuff. So it expands and there's because unlike yours.
That is beautiful. Yeah. I'm sorry, as somebody who lives in the Maryland area, therefore lives next to a lot of bureaucrats.
Mm-hmm.
For the bureaucrat perspective, that is like pornography.
Yeah, well, like with the Trump cabinet, they don't all have to be elected members of Congress or the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they? Or they can just be a dude he hires from the
outside.
They
can just be a dude. They could, I mean, technically, I could be chosen as a cabinet member if they wanted to.
Yeah, so anybody. I mean, I would now have to check because I don't know if you do actually have to be elected to be part of cabinet. But generally, the cabinet is filled with members of parliament. So people from your caucus. And there's political gamesmanship. So it's like if you want to keep someone who's being unruly and get them on
Wait,
your
you
side,
can't have somebody in your cabinet who isn't elected in Canada?
That now that you mention, I don't know if there's a specific rule saying that, but like currently there isn't. And like there was a lot of talk.
Because I just would imagine like if you had like a position for health minister, right, and you want to hire the best person, but the best person is a doctor who isn't elected. Would there really be
the normal practice would be you would find them a safe riding somewhere, have the current person who is in that seat from your party resign, call a by-election, have them run in it, have them win, and now they're in cabinet.
That seems like a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Well, this Mark Carney guy is the former bank. Like previously, there was rumors that he might be brought on to replace Freeland as finance minister. That's apparently what was happening that Friday when she was told she was being shuffled out. She was being told she was being shuffled out and was going to be replaced by Carney. And the big question everyone had was like, well, how can he be in cabinet if he's not either a member of parliament or a senator? Will he just get appointed to the Senate and then be put in cabinet? There was never a question of he would be in cabinet without being elected to government. I don't know if there was ever a rule, but the expectation was always he would become part. If he was in the cabinet, he would be either a senator or a member of parliament.
So back to Justin Trudeau's legacy.
It might actually be a rule because we have question period, which is when the opposition parties get to question government and they get to question cabinet officials and ask them questions. So it would be very problematic if the finance minister couldn't answer questions during question period.
So Justin Trudeau, carbon tax, marijuana legalization, those you would say are his 2 biggest accomplishments.
The 2 biggest ones I can think: the carbon tax and the boil water advisories that were removed.
What do you have any personal reflections on Trudeau? Like, if I was to come to you and I was like, I'm a new Canadian voter, I'm choosing I'm trying to figure out what decade we're leaving. Like, who is Trudeau, man? Who is Trudeau to you?
Well, it's weird because he is the I mean, I think probably if I was going to say it in the most nonpartisan, he's the prime minister of my kind of my youth, kind of, because he got elected. I remember a lot of my friends in my sort of first couple of years of university, going out and phone banking for him and getting really excited. He got people sort of excited about Canadian politics and wanted to get in, and so that I think that was probably this is the prime minister of my youth. And now that, so like it does kind of feel like now that I'm entering into my 30s, he's no longer prime minister. So I think that's probably the most apt is like I will associate his like government with like my 20s, I think.
Okay. That's a good era in somebody's life to be associated with, the 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I would say generally it's like I have more like, but that's the thing where it's like because like it's not just like there's good things that I associate with that. There's also a lot of negative things that I associate with that, and and that's true of both my 20s and Trudeau. Like the current, like I don't think he's I'm not gonna put a fuck Trudeau flag on my truck anytime soon, probably because I don't have a truck. But like I think people do have general like the stuff about him. We like you can make the argument that we brought in all like so many more immigrants and international students and foreign workers because it's probably one of the few things that stopped us from going into an actual recession after COVID. Like the provinces were demanding it, industry demanded it, the economy demanded it, and he did. And but there's
Mr. Economy.
Well, I don't know if I use
Mr. Economy. Mr. Economy himself demanded it.
Yes, the economy anthropomorphized itself, walked up to Parliament Hill and said, "I demand it." But like like what I mean by demand it was it's like I think there's a couple of different factors that mark whether something's in a recession, and you have to hit all three.
Yeah.
So the one marker that kept us from not officially being in a recession was population growth, and we were getting the majority of that population growth, or I think almost all of it, from new Canadians immigrating to the country. So that was a choice they made after COVID to sort of stave that off. But like when you bring all these people in, they need somewhere to live. They need a place to work. There needs to be infrastructure for them. And the speed at which that we had to bring new people in to maintain that level of population growth was faster than like all of that housing and jobs and infrastructure growth could keep up with, which we're now sort of dealing with the impacts of.
I mean, everything I'm hearing about right now is the housing crisis that you guys are dealing with. That it's just like awful. The price increases that people are dealing with right now, and a lot of people are seemingly placing that blame on the amount of temporary foreign workers in the country, and saying that
it's not entirely like one. I think people have memory hold what happened during the pandemic.
By the way, I'm just saying. By the way, I'm not. This is not like a Trump thing where I'm saying people are saying like I'm like claiming the crowd's all. I'm telling you what I'm actually hearing from people.
Yes,
because it's all I'm hearing.
I agree. I've 100. That is 100%. Like legitimately how a lot of people feel, and that's not untrue. But it's like and I think don't think it's just temporary foreign workers. It's just sort of a simple math. Like if you bring in 100 new people, you need 100 new houses, and you can only build a certain amount of houses in a certain time period, no matter how perfect of the conditions they are. It's just that physically you can only do so much in a certain amount of time.
And this applies to all services too. Like all these people are going to need dentists. They're going to need clerks. They're going to need whatever.
Yeah, so it's simple supply and demand. The demand shot up way faster than the supply. But also during COVID, you had huge skyrocketing housing and rental prices, and that was all domestic from people like trying to flee the cities and buy houses like outside of it, or and maybe not even selling their homes. And then there's like the Airbnb and the rental stuff, and like international students again also, because if you're a landlord, what would you rather do? Just economically, take in a single rent from a family of 5, or 5 rents from 5 international students in the same.
Well, the 5 rents, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what most landlords went with, and that's why the house. So it's like the amount of like single family homes that were available shrunk because they're now being rented out to multiple single individuals.
Has this made the dialogue in your country more racist? Just to get to the blunt end of it.
Yeah.
Like, is it like now everybody's like, oh, the Indians took all of our houses? Oh,
I mean,
is it
it's
now like that.
Like, it's not to the level of like the States, but it's absolutely happening, and it's starting to bubble up. Like there, like the whole, like there was like immigration was not a controversial issue maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. Like
I mean, the polling seemed to indicate that Canadians were largely pro-immigration.
Yeah, like largely for Canada, almost everyone understood that our like success came from new Canadians coming in, and like and growing that way. But because it just came in too fast, too quick, and like we brought in a lot of foreign students from China and India. That's just where they came from, and that is that's been the focus of a lot of the racism. Has been you tack on to that the sort of the concerns around foreign interference, which are legitimate from the governments of India and China, but obviously that's gonna blow back and have like
those assassinations recently from the Indian government. Oh my God! I mean, they're saying it's rogue agents and stuff, but that is wild. For those of you who don't know, there is, and please correct me where I missed, because this is not my area of expertise, but there is a movement, a separatist movement of people born largely from the I'm blanking on the name.
Separatist,
from the Sikh separatist movement that is no longer that dominant in the areas of in India that it's originally from. There still is support there, but now it's really powerful, especially in the diaspora, especially in Canada, and the Indians really hate that shit really a lot because they're really big on their borders.
It goes deep because the Air India bombing was conducted and I think partially planned by Sikhs in Canada while they were in like it goes back for a while. It's completely unfair to try and tar the current Khalistan movement for something that happened in the 80s.
Yeah, and especially just to violate the sovereignty of Canada and just like doing extrajudicial assassinations on their territory
are not connected. Like we're not in So I think those are like two, but like that's just to say that like this is not something that's just happened like 2 years ago and just out of nowhere. Like there's been this sort of. It goes back to even Harper.
So for those of you who don't know, like just these independence advocates for the Sikhs just start dropping dead in Canada because they start getting assassinated by, while we still don't know everything, but presumably Indian agents. That right now the most favorable argument for the Indian government is that these were rogue agents going off and just assassinating based off of like one bureaucrat's dreams, but it's kind of hard to believe that this knowledge wouldn't at least get back, or it wouldn't be stopped after the first signs of trouble. Either way, there was Indian agents assassinated Sikh independence advocates in Canada who were planning no terror attacks whatsoever, as far as we know.
Yeah, and this was the sort of the shocking moment when Trudeau. This was in the fall of last year. I think it was in September. He stood up in the House of Commons and just announced that Canada had credible intelligence, his words, that agents of the Indian government were involved in the assassination of a Sikh activist called Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, BC. And this was as he was coming out of his Gurdwara, which is their place of worship. That we've had a couple of other ones where there's been attacks on Gurdwaras. There's also been sort of protests that have turned violent outside of Hindu temples in Canada. So that's also sort of added to, I guess, the maybe what I would say is like xenophobic sentiment, where it's Canadians who would argue that like, oh, Trudeau has imported these like
conflicts,
these sectarian conflicts from around the world into Canada, and they'll say the same thing about Israel Palestine, or I mean, oddly, it doesn't get said about Ukraine Russia, but like that they'll say it about those two things. Like it's like we're like with the Sikh India thing, where all of this like immigration has imported this here, and now we have to deal with it, and that's the problem.
Man, I'm sorry. Anytime I think about Canada and Ukraine at the same time, I just can't get it out of my mind. You guys really screwed them over, huh? You just had to march out your freedom fighter.
Yeah.
Just, oh my God.
Well,
oh my God.
Like we just opened, I think in December, opened our Victims of Communism Memorial. You've seen that, right?
Yeah. You abused me with it on stream. You abused my brain with it.
But they were going to have a list of names on the memorial that you could search up as like, here are the victims of communism. But that list has not been released yet, with most people assuming that they're not confident that no one on that list is a repeat of Hunka. Where it's like they're a victim of communism. Oh, why? Well, because they lost a battle while fighting for the Third Reich. That sort of thing. Like it was that kind of like sort of fervor where no one went like, because of the current conflict in Ukraine, everyone heard fought against the Russians in World War II, and no one went, wait, what side? What do you mean? When did they fight against the Russians in World War II?
Oh boy.
Yeah, so we really fucked that one up.
I mean, like, what is? It's not like Zelensky had no clue either. He wasn't like debriefed on this beforehand. He just kind of came here.
No one did any
it was like
double checks.
Oh my God!
Well, that was the thing.
I just
find
it so funny that I find it so funny because the supposed Ukrainian Nazi president comes over here, who's actually a Jew, by the way, comes over here. You know, he's been dealing with, he deals with internal anti-Semitism, because that's a real problem in Ukraine, as it is in many places across the world. He's dealing with accusations of Nazism and all of this, and he comes over to Canada as the first Jewish president of Ukraine in history, his family was genocided and targeted by the death squads, comes to Canada, sits down, and then in progressive Canada, they're supposed to be like,
into giving a round of applause for a man who very well likely was in those death squads.
Oh God!
We couldn't have fucked up harder. We served that up on a silver platter. It's real bad.
Man, it's not good. Not good.
Almost.
But in progressive Canada, beautiful progressive Canada.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you wanted to talk about? I've been kind of dominating the conversation, dragging it which way, every which way.
I guess if how much do you understand about how our system works and how the parliamentary system works? Because that's the sort of thing where it's like they're not just picking a new leader. Like, this is imagine if Biden said he was stepping down as president. His whole administration, he was dissolving his whole administration. And then they're like, okay, the federal government's gonna run on quote unquote caretaker mode. So just anything that was already happening will continue to happen, but no new stuff is gonna happen. And that's gonna continue until we allow the Democrats to do an entire new primary, pick a new candidate. That candidate immediately becomes president.
Very chaotic, it seems.
It's the parliamentary system, so yeah, very. But in our system, we don't elect a prime minister. Justin Trudeau is the member of parliament for Papineau. So this is my kind of thing where I went through the transcript and I went through his speech. He never said he wouldn't run in the next election. He never said he was resigning from his seat. He just said he wouldn't lead the party and he would resign as the leader of the party and prime minister. So even after he steps down, he would still technically be in parliament as a member of the government under this new prime minister. He'll just be the member for Papineau. So the prime minister is whichever party has the most seats. So because they still have the most seats, Poilievre will not be our next prime minister. It's whoever they choose in this leadership election. So it's just the stakes of this are incredibly high. And also, with that being said, who do you think is allowed to vote in this contest? Like, what do you think the
party members, maybe? I would imagine party members.
Yeah, so party members. So what do you that's basically what I'm asking. So what do you think the parameters for being a party member are, which also means in this instance, what do you need to be to install the next prime minister?
I imagine you would need to be dues paying, maybe a dues paying party member. That you registered beforehand, and
so as it stands, yes, you have to So they might change these rules. Well, the point I'm getting at is, you would imagine that all of those people have to be citizens, right, and of voting age?
Yeah, of course.
Wrong. You just have to be a 14-year-old who normally resides in Canada. So if you're 14 and you have a document that says I live at this address, you will be allowed to vote.
Can I go vote in Canada then? If I go and I hang out enough in Canada?
If you can get to Canada, find a place of residence, and become a member of the Liberal Party, yes. You international students. Know how we said all that discussion about how many we had a huge influx of international students from China and India. All of those international students, if they're members of the Liberal Party, can vote for our next prime minister.
Wait, what was that one? I think their color was purple last election. What was their name?
Oh, that was the PPC. The People's Party.
Oh yeah, can I become one of their party members?
I'm sure they'd love to have you.
Take them over?
They would, yeah, I'm sure. You could probably take over from Bernier pretty easily.
Okay.
You might have to say a bunch of bullshit that you don't believe, but I think you could do it.
I could. Dude, I mean, come on.
And we've been having a whole foreign interference thing. In the previous, in the 21 election, there was a Liberal MP that during his nomination election, so the election to see who would be the Liberal candidate to run in the election, there were allegations that there were busloads of international students from China who were bussed into the nomination vote so that they could vote for this candidate, and that was put up as an instance of foreign interference. Because the Chinese government can say, hey, they can call up and be like, hey, we're going to revoke your visa if you don't do this. That's the sort of allegation, was that they were all sent there because Han Dong allegedly was the preferred candidate of the CCP. So they all busted him in. Problem is that Han Dong probably legitimately didn't remember that busload of Chinese international students, because it was probably one of many of a fleet of buses that were sent in by every candidate, filled with all sorts of community members, from seniors to different diaspora international students, many of them with a name written on their hand.
It is an extremely low standard, though.
It is especially in a contest that is directly voting on who will become prime minister. Even if it's for only a couple of days, it will directly be voting on who the next prime minister is.
Yeah, because I remember seeing people, and I remember in my city, they tried to change it so that non-citizens could vote in city elections. And the argument was that since it was city elections, it's not federal elections, therefore it might be constitutional. And there was a legitimate debate to be going back and forth or whatever.
You're an international student, you live there, so the municipal decisions about snow plowing and garbage pickup, maybe you should have a say in that because you are.
Yeah, there was a question about legality, but there's an argument. But when you talk about the federal government, I mean, it is very clear. I mean, it's clear and cut in the Constitution that you have to be a citizen to do that. That's wild that they can do that. And at 14, too, a 14-year-old foreign student could vote in the Liberal Party if they join.
And prior to all of this concern about Russian interference, Chinese interference, Indian government interference, foreign interference of any foreign government, before all these conversations, the argument, and most people kind of accepted it because they're a private institution. They can do what they want. They can make their own rules about how they determine who their nominees are. Same argument the Democrats and the Republicans make. They would say, well, it's 14 years old and people who are maybe temporary residents in Canada who are on the path to becoming citizens, or young people who are interested in politics, and this is a way to give them a sort of a teaser of the democratic process. They're not participating in the actual election. They're just participating in our internal nomination processes.
But that could be, in certain scenarios, more important than even the general election.
Yes, because,
especially if a certain party was dominant.
That's the thing. Because we're a parliamentary system, so we have the country split up into ridings. So each MP represents one of those ridings. That party with the most ridings wins. And similar to in the States, there are safe seats. So there's seats in where the polling will say it's basically you could run a head of cabbage and still win that seat if you're this party. So if you are a interested foreign government and you want to get your guy into the House of Commons, you make sure your guy wins one of those safe seats, and you can bus in a bunch of international students that you may be holding their visas over their head as leverage to show up and vote for that person en masse. Because you just have to be a dues paying member and have joined the party 41 days before the vote.
So I just wanted to bring up something that was just brought to my attention, and my chat was asking me to cover this with you, and I'm a crowd pleaser.
Absolutely.
Can you see the screen share I'm showing you?
I will pull that up. Okay. This.
Yes, Trump makes convicted drug dealer Greenland purchase poster boy. Danish press reports Timmy Zeeb served prison time for drug smuggling. On Truth Social, Trump posted a video of a man from Greenland asking him to purchase the Danish colony. Hey, Trump, please purchase us. We want to be part of America. As it turns out, the man, Timmy Zeeb, is a convicted drug dealer, according to DR News. In Trump's video post, Zeeb also seems to call Americans too fat, which Trump may have missed due to Zeeb's accent.
Can you just scroll up to his picture again?
There.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to see something. You can keep reading.
Look, that's the exact mentality we need as Americans. When we're fat as fuck you, fat ass. He's the perfect American.
Actually an incredibly American sentiment to be fat as hell and go, look at these fat asses.
Yes, it's too fat for me. Exactly. It's like if this is the person in a woman's replies who's just has the existence of a love handle, says fat bitch. This is him. This is him.
Yeah. All he needs
Zeeb's
are the aviator sunglasses and to be behind the driver's seat of his car.
Can we find this video of him asking to be
Is it not
annexed?
it should? I thought they have the link there, a hyperlink.
I would imagine. Yeah, maybe it's later.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that
Steve,
it? Oh no, that's
no, that's a different one. Zeeb's voiced support for selling the island to the United States, citing the unfair exploitation of Greenland's natural resources by Denmark. So just to have America do it?
Yeah.
We're not gonna. Okay. After Trump posted the video to his millions of followers, DR News reported on Zeeb's drug dealing history. DR News contacted Trump's transition team about the man, but has not heard back. Oh my God, really?
They didn't get right back to you?
I would have thought we gotta find
Are
this.
you sure that's not that one with the play button? That's not just that's not the video.
No,
That's
it's
just a
like
picture of
it's a
Oh,
picture of an
that
article. It says
sucks.
DR news
Oh,
article on
God damn it.
TV. You know what? We could just go to his Truth Social page.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. How often do you go and maintain your Truth Social account?
I think I was on there. I think I made a Truth Social account when Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago because I'm like, that's where the picture.
Look at all these. Do you see this shit that he's posting? Look at this.
Oh God.
Look at
Holy
this.
shit.
Like
it's like an earworm.
It's two of them. He's multiple in a row. He's double barrel, man.
Yeah.
My God, where is this hero? I want to hear Timmy Zeeb. Oh no, unfortunate.
Is it not there? Because that's the other thing where like sometimes people say he posted his Truth Social, and I'll go look for it, and it's like not there. So it's like, do I not know how to use this website?
Yeah, I'm looking in my chat to see if anybody saved me there, but no, they failed me. It must be here somewhere. Unless oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. I found it.
Hell yeah.
Let me read it. This is Trump. This is his message attached to it. I'm hearing that the people of Greenland are MAGA. My son, Don Jr., and various representatives will be traveling there to visit some of the most magnificent area and sites. Greenland is an incredible place, and the people will benefit tremendously if and when it becomes part of our nation. We protect it and cherish it from a very vicious outside world. Make Greenland great again. I like the idea that he's like coming to protect the virgin lands of Greenland from a world that would do her wrong.
Because that's my immediate. It's like, who is threatening Greenland currently?
There's only one person that I can think of.
Exactly.
Okay. So like, if you could tell Trump anything, what would it be?
Buy us.
Buy Greenland?
Buy Greenland.
Why do you want Trump to buy Greenland?
Because we don't want to be colonized by Danish government anymore. We get ripped every year about our minerals from Greenland. We are the richest nation in the world, and we don't get to use it. Denmark's using us too much.
Do you like America?
I love America.
He kind of sounds like he has like that like Maori news. Is he Maori? Or is that just the news? Is that the Greenland accent?
I don't know. I mean, I've been in Greenland a few times. Well, no, I've been in Iceland. Sorry, that's all the same shit. Fucking, I don't know. This is a weird accent. He's a weird guy. This is a weird individual. He's also a drug smuggler apparently.
Mm-hmm. But maybe like I mean I don't
future governor of Greenland in America.
I mean I don't know a lot about Greenland, but I do know a lot about the sort of population of people that move to Alaska. And the sort of the stereotypes about them. So maybe that's kind of like what Greenland is for the rest of the world, where it's like cold Australia.
You know, I've thought about moving to Alaska because I mean, I like the idea, the wide open wilderness. I like that idea of the wide open wilderness. The government's like, 20 miles away at any time. They're not going to bother me. I got my privacy. I'll accept this stereotype. I'll accept it wholeheartedly.
I mean, I've thought about it too, but it's like I'm in Ottawa and it was it felt like minus 20 today. And I thought about killing myself. So I don't think we're really fully comprehending how cold it would be. It's nice to think about, but the 27th of December would be just I think that would be when you really realize whether or not you want to live in Alaska.
That's true.
A full 6 months of complete night.
Yeah, the early nights is what I really don't like. Mm-hmm. It's the worst part. I might even be able to deal with the cold, but it's the early nights that I really don't like.
Yes.
Okay, so I've gone through everything I wanted to Canada related. Okay, we had a full Canada day here at DylanBurnsTV. I didn't expect it ever. This is a real progressive change for me. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything that you wanted to swing at?
No, I think that's where I'm sort of like my whole head's at this entire time is just sort of like we're just about to figure out who our next prime minister is, and then they will immediately, most likely, their first act will be most likely to present a throne speech to reintroduce the new session of parliament, which will almost certainly be immediately defeated, and then we're going to go into an election. And this will all be while Trump is like it's all going to be while Trump is sort of threatening.
Not a great situation for Canada to be dealing with.
Very suboptimal, and so that's just sort of just please don't invade us. If that's my message to you guys, we got enough shit on our plate right now. Just give us a sec. Honestly, if you're on the sort of pro-Trump side and you think we need to invade, let Polyev have a chance. Just let him have a chance to maybe to do some stuff. You might like it.
Stuart, I live 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. If you get taken over, you have to come down here to continue to do your job. And then, we can go out, we can get coffee. You know? That could be nice. There's some positives of this you are considering.
It's probably not -20 in Washington, D.C. right now. So
that is true. It is. Actually, we did just have a full foot of snow. It was really nice.
That would be the only thing that would get me to leave the Parliamentary Press Bureau is if someone was like, do you want to be in the Washington Press Bureau? And I'm like, nah, yeah, probably. Because then I can pester even more powerful people.
So, one last thing. If what I think is going to happen, which is Trump doing this probably to try to get more negotiating power to make some sort of ask. Mm-hmm. If he was to come to Canada right now and say, look, and this is what I think would be likely, Canada has been freeloading on American defense spending, so to speak. You're spending 1.3, everybody else is spending much more as a percentage of the GDP. You got to get to 2% or 2.5%. You got to get to this number. The number he said was
5. So that's, I think, if that's his ask, is I won't do it. You got to get to 5%.
5% is the ask. I hear that it's his number that he's going out there to. Yes, and the number they're negotiating down to, I hear it is 3.5.
Because we're like 1 point something, so we're not
1.3 last time I checked.
So 0.7% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot of money that we would have to add spending, and
especially with your last deficit report.
Yeah, and fucking more icebreakers, as Trump has said, is not gonna do it. Beefed up border security is not gonna do it. Another thing that I think might be on the table that he has suggested and he's brought up in passing is we have a shit ton of fresh water. And it's a one thing that that has been sort of is states wanting to put basically a pipeline into the Great Lakes to send it down to California and Texas. And I mean, we share that water. So half of it is ours, half of it is yours. But if you know anything about water, it doesn't divide that evenly. You can't just suck up your side of the lake and nothing will happen to ours, sort of thing. Yeah. So that could be another thing where if the global climate and the threat of water wars is a thing, that could be a way we negotiate out of it, where you can have our water.
Oh, I could definitely see Trump in an era of water wars, just taking a big straw to every lake that we border with.
I drink your fucking all the milkshake. Water.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are probably two things that we could be leading towards.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I didn't think about the water. Okay, so I've covered everything I want to cover, and I want to thank you for taking the time to stream with me today and taking time out of your extremely busy schedule, harassing people on your parliamentary hill. I don't know what you guys call it, the Moose Burrow or something. I don't know what you
Press
guys.
Gallery.
The Parliamentary Press Gallery. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, I don't want to take you from the beautiful world of that for much longer. So thank you so much for coming on today's stream. Hopefully, if we get any more Canadian news updates, we can have you just stop by maybe for a shorter period in the future. Just tell us what's going on, something like that. And if you ever, want to talk for whatever reason, I don't know if you're interested in Ukraine for whatever reason, or
have
a question about something else, you can message me at any time.
Yeah, no, well, let's do this again. We'll figure something out. But yeah, no, I mean, if you're looking for content, watch that Jordan Peterson Poilievre thing. That's probably a good window into where Canadian politics is at right now, because he is most likely going to be the next prime minister after our next election.
Yep, the Conservatives. How well do you think they're going to perform in the election? Do you think they're going to have a majority that there's nothing that anyone can really do?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think even going past that next election, I think it will be maybe at almost close to another decade before we see another party in power, if they win as well as they're going to win. We'll say it'll be like a 9, almost 10 years of Trudeau.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how the parliamentary system works. What was Angela Merkel? How long was she in power?
I mean, she was in power for a bit, but I mean, there was elections in there, wasn't there?
Yeah,
it wasn't that she just constantly dominated because she won one election particularly well. It was a bunch of elections.
Yeah, no,
that's
that's what Trudeau did. So Trudeau won in 2015 with a large majority, so that gave him 4 years in power, and then the 2019 election he won again with a smaller minority, so not a full majority, but more seats than anyone else, so he became prime minister again. 2 years later, called another election, won that with a even smaller minority, but still the most seats. And then this one is finally he's going to have fewer. So I think that you could see the same thing with Poilievre. So he's going to win a huge, massive majority, have 4 years for sure, and then the next election they might even have enough where they could have another majority. So that's 8, and then so it's at least probably 6 years before we would see anywhere close to a new party challenging for the prime ministership. So get used to Poilievre. He's probably going to be around for a while.
Well, what type of priorities does he have? Is there anything that should be concerning at all?
I don't think concerning for America. I think probably if most Americans hearing his stuff would probably be fairly amenable to it. He sort of has his carbon plan is to send more liquid natural gas out to get rid of dirty dictator oil.
Dirty dictator oil. Is that what he calls it?
Yes. He loves his alliterations and his little rhyming patterns.
Dirty dictator oil.
Yes. Axe the tax, stop the crime, fix the budget, bring it home. He's got so many.
Very simple, very to the point.
Yes.
Very easy to understand.
Very tweetable, very bite-sized, very much of the time of a very, very effective at communicating.
I'm sure the left has some, comparable option that is not just a long diatribe that doesn't know when to stop.
In Canada, no. No,
of course.
Here's the thing. We're a good analogy, and I think so. On Parliament Hill, that they all throw different receptions, and the joke was you go to a conservative party to get drunk, you go to a liberal party to get laid, and a NDP, which are the leftist parties, you go to their parties to get a pamphlet. And what has changed is I don't think the liberals are getting laid anymore. I think the conservatives are getting drunk and laid. And the NDP are still just handing out pamphlets.
Damn.
So yeah, it's not if you're a leftist in Canada, I don't know what they don't have much to be happy about. I think probably the most famous.
I heard they couldn't they become the opposition if things go well?
No, the separatist Bloc Québécois are most likely to become the opposition.
Damn.
Which is going to be wild. Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, that they don't like solidly fall anywhere on the political spectrum, like left or right, do they?
They fall on we are for Quebec.
Yeah,
So
that's my point. Like, so it's like them as an opposition. That's kind of weird to think about.
It's weird where they're like a nationalist party, but like for like a very specific part of Canada, which they would say is not part of Canada. It's a nation within a nation. But so like they have their stuff where it's like they're very secularist, which can be coded as right wing because they're like sort of they support the hijab,
burqa bans and stuff like that.
The ban in Quebec and the hijab ban. But then they're also like, we need to bring in more money for seniors, or they'll do like they'll be, even with supporting the burqa ban, be one of the most empathetic to the Palestinian cause parties outside of the NDP and the Greens, which is they'll just throw the like weird out of left field or sometimes surprisingly out of right field things. So yeah, that will be very interesting because they care about Quebec and Quebec sovereignty and Quebec nationalism and French and maintaining French.
Maintaining the French.
Our French values are under attack. Like one of their sort of gotcha questions they'll do to the government all the time, be like, do you believe French is in decline in Quebec? And then if they say anything other than absolutely, it's with the Quebec, French is about to die out in Quebec, they get pilloried. So that'll be very fun. So
my goodness. Well, you know what? I'm excited to see your country dominated by the conservatives and the French. Good luck.
It's gonna be
good luck.
So fun. I'm so excited. Genuine.
Thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you?
I'm Left Hand Stew on basically all of my social media. So Left Hand Stew on Twitch and Twitter, and then you can also find me on at thehilltimes.com. That's where I publish. I'm on the Wednesday schedule, so I usually publish 2 stories every Wednesday. Yeah, so you check me out there if you can afford the nearly $8 a week subscription, which I wouldn't advise, but sometimes there's free stuff.
Good luck. Good luck, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Later days. Whoop. Get that. We get rid of that. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right. Well, that was fun. Mistress of Insanity. That's not very nice. Sell Quebec to the U.S. bloc are now kingmakers. Oh, yeah. No, I would... I think the Americans would bite off way more than they can chew if they took Quebec. You better not be talking shit.
Down and Trump threatening all this.
All right, he's not talking shit. I don't think he would be, but it would be very funny if, like, I tuned in there and he's like, "What an idiot! I hated every second of that." It'd be very mean. We're gonna watch. Oh, here we go. Watch some of the National, because the National song apparently. And then we'll figure out what we're doing. We might even just end streaming a bit because I don't know how much else planned, but I'd need to use the little boy's room, and then we'll figure that out.
And add things to our society. That's what I know.
How to deal with hundreds of thousands
I don't even know who you are.
people is a political and social problem for Ottawa. Increasingly, the government is sending them home. In the last fiscal year, Canada Border Services says more than 15,000 people were deported for breaking immigration rules.
We've seen significant numbers of deportation, I think historic highs of the numbers of removals from this country this year. We're very serious about that.
That's a shift in priority. When he got the job 3 years ago, Immigration Minister Mark Miller was told to explore ways of regularizing status for undocumented workers. 3 years later, it's not on the table.
There's no consensus at this time as to what to do.
We are the people you're trying to kick out of the country. We are human beings, and we are not tapped to be turned on and off.
A group of undocumented workers is fighting for status. Manaya Jess joined this protest in Ottawa, even though by being here, by showing her face, she risks being sent back to Jamaica.
I'm here fighting for status for everyone, every migrant in this country. I came here as a migrant farm worker, and I was physically and verbally mistreated.
Jess came to Canada twice as a temporary farm worker picking apples. The third time she came to Canada, she worked on a strawberry farm.
For a Canadian that doesn't know about picking strawberry, it's a really hard work.
Shortly after arriving at the farm, she got hurt. She says her employer wouldn't help her get medical attention.
So they were robbing me from my rights, what I deserve.
So she left the job, but not the country, and began to live in the shadows. Every morning, she walks through this forest near her home, imagining what it would be like if her children could join her.
My youngest son don't know me, so it's not much relationship there because I left him when he was so small. So it's hard.
And it could get harder. Canadian attitudes towards immigration, both legal and illegal, are changing.
We didn't get the balance quite right.
In October, the government announced plans to cut back on legal immigration.
Jesus, that was like, we were talking for nearly
feels the pushback
3
against
hours there?
immigration growing, and he gets it.
Who's Dylan's editor, Danabo?
If the economy is
prayers
shrinking,
up to Danabo.
You may
everyone say a
gain
silent
fully
prayer
employed.
for Danabo.
And
Whichever
new people
God
are
you
coming
pray
into your
to. If you
neighborhood
don't,
and
just speak it
taking,
into the void.
Government
into the
money for
universe.
social services and stuff that you feel you should.
He's
be
gonna have a
entitled to.
rough time editing that. I was rambling.
That will bother somebody, and I don't know that that's based solely in racism as much as it's based in the fight for survival for you and your families.
Amelia feels that attitude too.
Algo nos trajo aquí. La necesidad,
yes.
a lo mejor la presión,
well, that's the thing where it's, I mean,
otras veces el racismo. Todo
I needed like
viene por una circunstancia.
strategists and pollsters.
Y a nombrar aquí Canadá.
No one seems to have like really up-to-date data on
And
like
for that chance,
Canada's views
however
on how
slim,
legalization is
it's
going.
worth living in fear. Hiding
Or if anyone can tell me what
like a ghost.
the conservatives are
One
going
of
to
the
do.
things I learned about talking
I'd
to people who
appreciate that.
study migration, Adrian, is that there's a real chance the number of undocumented migrants could increase in Canada.
Okay, Lindsay, why do they think that is?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is that it's now tougher to become a permanent resident in Canada. The federal government reduced the number of spots. So that means people who are here on temporary visas may overstay and then they become undocumented. And also, we do not know what is going to happen in the United States. Donald Trump has promised to deport the more than 11 million people in that country illegally, and Canada could look like an option for some of them.
And what's your sense of how Canadians feel
I had a
about
bunch
people
of
who are called undocumented
people
at
texting
this
me.
point?
Well, overall, I think many Canadians don't
Oh,
really
speaking
know
of dental
that there
care,
are
my
this
mom just
many
texted me to
people
say she went to the
existing
dentist
in
and it
the
cost her
shadows
$6
and working under the table.
for a
We
checkup.
tend to think of this as an American issue,
So-
but there are indications a lot of Canadians support sending people who
Some people are
shouldn't be
benefiting
here
from it.
home. A recent Leger poll for the Institute of Canadian Studies shows
No, there's
that
too many
48%
stores because she's a senior, so she gets a lot. She gets it's very good for seniors. It's it's a good program if you can
lower
access
than the views found in the U.S. in the same study.
Oh, interesting.
But if you're not a
All right,
senior or
thank
you're
you.
not,
That's Lindsay Duncombe in Vancouver. Our Welcome to
making,
Canada series
like,
continues
if you're-
Friday.
if you're
when
making
David
more than a
Coleman
certain amount of money, you
introduces
can't
us
access it.
To some Sudanese Canadians who claim there's a double standard when it comes to this country's immigration policy, and they believe institutional racism is a major factor.
It is a war being waged on the Sudanese people.
A country under siege. The biggest humanitarian crisis in the world.
There is no question that this is the worst war in modern history.
An offer of help from Canada.
We have to do something as a country. Canadians wouldn't forgive us if we didn't do it.
But delays leading.
That was my
thing as a country. Canadians wouldn't forgive us.
That's my
if we
colleague
didn't do it.
Sofal.
But delays leading to disappointment.
My patience is
I'd swing my vote to the cons if they bumped up the dental care income threshold and made it universal. Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath on that one, RSJ.
While you were waiting.
Very sad and heartbreaking.
It's very problematic and it's racist.
I don't know why this is happening.
Our Welcome to Canada series continues through January and beyond. For the full story of our unique national survey of 1,500 newcomers and more, go to cbcnews.ca/welcome to Canada. Well, next, the big promises about natural cleanses.
Here's how to detox your kidneys naturally.
But do any of them help? We get the scoop.
Oh yes, the CBC dubstep, my favorite. Something good to watch on YouTube? Really? Jeez, these fires are nuts. Is it? Oh yeah, you're so right. You can almost tell, yeah. They've done the social issue segment, so now it's gonna be the, because it's 9:44, so you're right. So the thing after this is gonna be the puppy saved from a tree segment. Jump to the start.
Tens of thousands on the run as homes and
shit is
burn
terrifying.
Now concerns water is running out and crews are stretched too thin.
Mother Nature's in charge here and we're just reacting to it.
Also breaking, what we've learned about Ottawa's plan to counter Trump's tariff threat and how the premiers are already pushing back.
I know the premiers have a strong plan.
And welcome to Canada. CBC News digs into immigration in this country and the challenges some newcomers face.
To me, I just feel we're letting talents waste.
Including those living in the shadows.
If you're undocumented, how do they pay you?
Why they're now speaking out.
From CBC News.
He was in a car crash?
Is the National with Chief Correspondent.
Doug Ford was in a car crash? What?
Thanks for joining us tonight. Los Angeles is surrounded by multiple fast and fierce wildfires, which have now turned deadly. The spreading infernos are burning out of control, with officials warning of a diminishing water supply. Plus, the extremely strong winds.
Was this in Canada or is he in the U.S. right now? Oh, it's in the
estimated
okay, so
more
he
than
was in Canada.
1,000 buildings have been lost.
God damn.
There are at least 3 major fires burning. The Palisades fire is the largest, forcing more than 40,000 people to evacuate. At least 5 people are dead, 2 of them killed in the Eaton fire. Aaron Collins is inside the evacuation zone tonight. So, Aaron, I gather you just drove through the destruction. Can you give us a sense of what you saw?
Yeah, Adrian, I mean, total devastation. We're standing on the Pacific Coast Highway looking south towards Los Angeles. You can see up on that hill, that fire burning. That's the Palisades fire. Obviously, it's still going. We just drove through the
When did they
neighborhood at the top of that
reallocate
hill.
the service?
Total devastation. Houses leveled, neighborhoods leveled, entire streets burnt to the ground. Commercial districts not there anymore. We saw a bank machine just standing in the middle of a field, it seemed. Really not much there to look at that's left standing. And of course, Adrian, it's not the only fire that's threatening the Los Angeles area. The Los Angeles area under siege, surrounded by fire.
I'm trying to find my dad.
Tens of thousands of people.
Barney's Barnson, thank you for the follow. Daisy Bluetooth, thank you for the follow. Calbeef, thank you for the follow. Bop and Wop, thank you for the follow. Poker Mad, thank you for the follow.
Scrambling
Sorry, I
to
missed
get
all
out.
this.
Others staying put to fight for their homes.
The fire was basically encircling us. You could hear explosions all around us.
It's really scary when you can see the flames coming up over the houses 2 blocks away.
But leaving, not easy.
I was running up to the 3rd story, 2nd story, carrying people down, just picking them up because we do have a lot of wheelchair people in here.
Resources and manpower on the ground stretched paper thin. More than a million people without power, too. In some areas, crews running out of water to beat back the flames.
Mother Nature's in charge here, and we're just reacting to it.
This fire fanned by winds not seen in this area for a decade, overnight reaching 160 kilometers an hour.
We lost all our things. As partners, all our photographs and all my grandpa's antique chest.
Those losses not lost on officials here. A federal state of emergency now in effect.
So over 1,000 structures already that have been destroyed, 100,000+ people that have been evacuated, lives lost, traditions, lifestyles, places torn asunder.
In less than 2 days, these fires have already left their mark. More than 1,000 buildings destroyed. The first deaths starting to be reported. And Adrian, the fires that caused all that devastation, well, they're still completely out of control.
And Aaron, from looking at the forecast, I gather those powerful winds are expected just to continue right into tomorrow.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're not as bad as we saw last night in this area, but they're not good news for the people trying to put out the fires. You can see burning behind me. Winds are still going to be blowing. Humidity still quite low, and that's not good news for the firefighters trying to put out the several fires threatening the Los Angeles area.
All right, Aaron Collins near Los Angeles tonight. Thanks, Aaron. Not only is this a Hollywood disaster movie come to life, for real-life Hollywood, it's a disaster. Among those forced to flee, actor James Woods.
I'm sorry. Just, one day you're swimming in the pool, and the next day it's
Can someone
all
get
gone.
me
I
a
thought
smaller violin? The one I have to play for him isn't, I don't think,
How
small
LA's
enough.
most prominent industry is facing the fire. That's later in the show. Ottawa says it's ready to help California beat back the fires. The Ministry of Emergency Preparedness, Harjit Sajjan, posted he's in contact with his U.S. counterpart, saying that given our experience in Jasper this summer, we're offering our expertise and that
You're welcome,
resources and
America.
equipment will be mobilized as needed. Quebec
do it
and
'cause
a
we're
BC-based
friends.
aviation company have water bombers and helicopters already fighting the fire. Meanwhile, Canada is bracing for a potential trade fight with the incoming U.S. president.
Leader's
And
an
we have new
asshole,
information
but
tonight
we
about
got you
Ottawa's
back.
plan to hit back. Katie Simpson is breaking those details for us tonight. So, Katie, take us through what you're hearing.
There's a confidential document circulating among senior officials in Ottawa listing hundreds of American-made goods that Canada
this was
is
the thing I was talking
considering
about.
targeting for retaliation to slap tariffs on those American imports should Canada be forced to respond. Final decisions have not been made, but according to a senior Canadian government source, the list includes a wide range of steel and aluminum products,
welcome.
ceramics, including sinks and toilets, glassware, flowers, some
Sinks and
plastic
toilets,
products, and
too.
Florida orange juice. This would only happen if Trump delivers on his tariff threat. He
Ontario's
warned
great.
Canada and Mexico, unless border security improvements are made, both countries would be hit with 25% tariffs on his first day in office.
Ontario,
the
yours
source
to
says
discover.
officials around the
So
Prime
much
Minister
better
are
than open for
increasingly
business.
convinced Trump is just going to do
Take
it.
that to my
So
grave.
why
It's not even
these
partisan,
products?
just
It's all
yours
about
to discover is
extracting
such a-
maximum
is a
political
good
pressure. The steel goods are largely made in
I don't
Michigan
even know if
and
that's a
Pennsylvania.
motto
Those,
or
of
whatever,
course, are
but-
swing states. Also, Canada has to be careful. I'm told officials don't want to make life more expensive for Canadians because remember, when tariffs are applied, the added cost is usually passed on to the consumer. Adrian.
All right. Katie Simpson in Washington. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.
Now, Canada's premiers are also pushing back against Trump's tariff threat. They met tonight to hash out a plan to protect the provinces from economic turmoil. Kate McKenna now with one premier's approach and frustration over Ottawa's response.
Ontario's premier says the federal government's got to step up.
There's a lack of leadership right now in Ottawa.
Before meeting with provincial leaders Wednesday to plan for Trump's tariff, Ford pitched a plan to boost the energy partnership between Canada and the United States. It's his latest charm offensive, directed at Americans.
Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, Canada.
He's been appearing on American TV, trying to persuade viewers that Donald Trump should abandon his plan to hit Canadian goods with big tariffs.
We can come together on a great trade deal.
But instead of backing down, Trump is amping things up. He's repeatedly said Canada should become an American state. This week, he went even further.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United
right
States,
off the cuff, like not even
that
like
would really be something.
He had that in the
We have
chamber.
to take him at his word at this point. It is
Like
what
that
he
is what they're actually
clearly
considering.
said. He's not
sort of
retracted.
thing.
It's not
Wait,
been.
what is this? Holy shit. That's insane. That's so bad.
His staff didn't come back and say, no,
Holy
no,
shit.
this is not what he meant. He went, it is now the policy of the United States of America.
Some Trudeau ministers initially brushed off Trump's 51st state comments as a joke. Now, nobody's laughing.
I think that when President-elect Trump talks,
Just a little bit about the winds. We know you were at the Eaton fire earlier today. What's the wind situation as you're standing on the ridge up there right now?
Well, that's not, well, I mean, this is not the time
Colleen.
to be impressed by this technology, but the overlay of the streets
like we
here
saw
is
24 hours ago. So that's the blessing.
Smart.
There are occasional gusts, but again, the fact that the plume of smoke seems to be, it's a bit of a chimney. We have a slight breeze. It's doable. Let me put it that way. It is. Yeah. It gives the firefighters an opportunity, the likes of which they really didn't have last night, and that's one of the reasons why we're seeing an effort from the air to get at this flank of the fire again before it makes too much of an advance towards the homes down below and the homes up here. Right now, though, for the people here, if there is a wind velocity, it seems to be blowing it in the opposite direction. But of course, that can change.
You know, Conan, as we stay with your shot here, we want to read over a note from our colleague, Robert Kovacic, that the Bird Streets neighborhood of Los Angeles has just been evacuated. That's the one just off of Doheny and Sunset, which is actually west of Laurel Canyon, which is, the western part of the mandatory evacuation orders for this new Sunset fire. And we do know there is an evacuation warning in place west of Laurel to Franklin Canyon for the same Sunset fire. So we're trying to get more information about the evacuation that are again now happening.
Just leave us alone.
West of Laurel,
we'll give you
Laurel
the recipe.
Was the border of what we were told initially.
It's just all of the flavors
evacuations here for the Sunset. He's also reporting that the outposts and outpost estates were just evacuated as well. So we're going to try to get confirmation on some of those reports as well.
And that would make sense because when we were talking with Margaret Stewart from LAFD, she said the fire is burning in a westerly direction. Yep. So it is moving towards Laurel Canyon. If there is a feeling that they can't stop it at that point, it would make sense that there would be a warning ahead of that to get people out of the area. Conan, are you seeing Runyon Canyon at all from your vantage point?
Well, I know they've been evacuated. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it, quite frankly, because it's dark, Colleen. But I'm seeing fingers of it. There's no question about that. And yes, you mentioned the evacuation warning. when you get an evacuation warning, there's a 90% chance that will be followed up by an evacuation order. And that's what we've seen before. So for those folks on the other side of Laurel Canyon, the warning is be prepared, get your stuff ready, you don't have to go. But, you know, dollars to donuts, you're going to get another one later. And it's not necessarily because the flames are really headed toward your neighborhood, because they might not be.
That's why.
But it's in the
the
way it's been described to me, the err on the side of caution. And
do they do that for all presidents?
Don't achieve
like the Postal Service doesn't deliver
over this fire at a certain point in terms of its proximity to what would be that line, which is Laurel Canyon, then they issue the evacuation order for the rest of the neighborhood. So my guess is that if you've got that alert on your phone, don't take it lightly, because you'll probably be followed up by a second alert saying it's time to leave. And Laurel Canyon, you know, keep in mind, it's part of the beauty of the canyons and the Hollywood Hills.
I can't. I know that this has happened in Canada.
Roads,
not to. I don't
just
even know. I don't want to make comparisons.
The bucolic neighborhoods of the mountains.
What they are.
But that's a real problem, of course,
I've
for
never
a firefight,
been
because these roads
anything close to experiencing something like this,
for an apparatus
or anywhere
to make,
even
for example,
near it, like not even in the same province and stuff like
I don't
this.
know how many landing zones they may have, or areas where they may be able to achieve a water supply for an aerial drop, where they need to go for that. And it's these neighborhoods, just like the Oakland Hills, years ago, where they lost 600 homes. It's one of the reasons why these neighborhoods are so popular and wonderful to live in. It's the biggest downside, though, is the inability of fire units to make their way through these streets. If there are any cars in the way, that's a real problem. These are not wide boulevards, and snaking their way through these canyons is part of the job of the fire units that have been assigned to this region, this neighborhood, but it adds to a major complexity in dealing with the structure protection, getting people out, and addressing directly the flame as it makes its way up the canyon. And some of these canyon walls towards the homes.
That one is. Those two need to sort their shit out in private, because this kind of sort of public breakup is getting too fucking messy. I know too much about it. I shouldn't know anything about it.
Bob, right now, that doesn't appear.
Well, Jonathan and I are sitting here. We presume they might be doing that water draw from Lake Hollywood, because they've been making some quick turns in terms of the aerial assault here. Conan, you said you went in with strike teams. What are they up to right now? Are they working? Are they waiting for this fire to come to them?
Well, you know what? First of all, you're right, Colleen. You're smart. That's probably where they're getting it from, Lake Hollywood.
Thank you, Conan.
There are a couple of reservoirs here, so I should.
I've been waiting a long time to hear that from you. Thank
you. You and I have been doing this a while, Colleen.
Yes, we have.
The strike team that we.
Tonight, the historic and catastrophic wildfires in Southern California turning deadly after 80,000 people are forced to evacuate their homes. The apocalyptic images. A state of emergency in Los Angeles as thousands of acres burn, impacting one of the most picturesque places in the nation. Multiple wildfires raging out of control tonight, fueled by hurricane-force winds. The fire in the Pacific Palisades, now the most destructive in the city's history. At least 5 people are dead, an estimated 1,000 structures destroyed, more than 1 million without power. The grounds of the iconic Getty Villa up in flames. The first helicopters and planes taking off to join the fight, and desperate homeowners racing to save their homes with water hoses. The streets choked with abandoned cars last night, now empty. Our team in the fire zone. Also tonight, the new winter storm set to sweep across the country from the south to the northeast. Al Roker is here. President-elect Donald Trump asking the
I
Supreme
think that's
Court
like the
to
third
halt his
time I've
hush money
technically leaked our
sentencing set for
DMs on
Friday.
stream.
The alarming moment, a man with a machete and knives arrested trying to enter the viewing
Sorry,
for former
Dylan.
President Jimmy Carter at the U.S. Capitol. And late tonight, President-elect Trump arriving to pay his respects. The car blowing through a railroad gate, slammed by an oncoming train in Florida.
Like, was
The
that
driver's
Doug
condition
Ford?
tonight. And the personal loss in California's wildfire disaster. Our correspondent returning to find his childhood home devastated.
Oh, Jesus.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. I've covered wildfires in California since the earliest days of
Because I know journalists are masochists, because my first thought there was like, why would you send the reporter to report on his own childhood home burning down? And then my second thought was like, because he insisted. Because I would too. Because we're goddamn gluttons for punishment.
of my career, when I don't remember dry. Firefighting aircraft for a time grounded by ferocious winds, some gusting around 100 miles per hour. Rows of homes and restaurants along the Pacific Coast Highway were consumed by the flames. This is what it looked and sounded like. Almost haunting. The Pacific Palisades fire growing to nearly 16,000 acres. 40 miles away, the Eaton fire turned deadly and has exploded to over 10,000 acres. Tonight, thousands in the region are under evacuation orders, filling shelters. Schools are closed, while power is out for 1.5 million Southern Californians. Gotti Schwartz is in the fire zone to start our coverage.
This area of Altadena has become an absolute wasteland. You've got rows and rows of homes that have burned. You've got some homes that are still standing, but it's just a matter of time.
This was the moment the sun rose over the fire raging above Pasadena, but you'd never know it because the dawn disappeared in the smoke.
Again, you hear those explosions. So many of these homes, there is no hope.
But against the odds in Mother Nature, some stayed doing everything they could to fight back.
There are people still here trying to fight this fire with garden hoses. There is still water in this area, but with this much destruction, it almost seems...
He doesn't even have to say it. Like, that noise, I think,
you were here fighting
conveys
yourself, right? Yes. How long
the
have you been
sense
out
down
here?
there more than anything. You never want to hear a live reporter make that, whatever that was.
Of firefighters
like,
here. Trying to fight by yourself seems, but
that's like that. That's a. It's almost not even worth me trying to verbalize that noise, because it says it all, I think, perfectly.
You were here fighting by yourself, right?
Yes.
How long have you been out here?
I've been out here since 4 a.m.
4 a.m. trying to protect your home.
Yes.
You now have a full, contingent of firefighters here.
Oh, those fire
seems
trucks
like
must have
right in the
shown
nick
up
of
like
time.
the goddamn
They saved this
Rohirrim
home
at
for
Helm's
now.
Deep.
A scene that played out across so many fire lines, from the foothills of the Angeles Mountains to the Palisades.
And then trying to make entrance. They're smashing down that door. They gotta go in.
This reporter isn't wearing a
They gotta
respirator.
make sure no one
I
is
think he
here.
might have one, but he's pulling it down to
Homeowners
speak.
on rooftops trying to wet down everything.
Here they come! They're gonna help you! It's hard to show the scope of what's going on.
As we headed down Sunset Boulevard, the loss was worse than any fire we've ever seen.
This
This
looks
is
like
sunset?
the apocalypse here.
And the chaos.
I'm shit at geography, but I know what sunset.
Hydrants went dry.
They are not designed to fight wildfires. A firefight with multiple fire hydrants drawing water from the system for several hours is unsustainable.
They're not this. I mean, I guess it's a metropolitan fire hydrant. They're not built with forest fires in mind.
Officials say they weren't able to fill tanks fast enough, which would have helped with the water pressure. something NBC's Morgan Chesky saw firsthand.
Out of every fire hydrant you've seen, what have you found? Right now, we're finding most of them are down or low pressure.
I mean, this guy's wearing at least a
If we had a
mask.
hydrant for this building, if we had a hydrant for this building, we might have been able to save the back half.
I believe journalists have an educational duty to assuring proper PPE.
It is untouched for now, but you can see how close those flames are. Firefighters are making their way up. Again, they're having
Oh
to
no, he
ignore
doesn't. Oh no, he
massive
does. I
structures
thought that
like
was
this
just like a
huge apartment
like
complex. It looks like it's going to go up imminently because they are just overwhelmed. There isn't
like
enough water up here.
The winds also grounding that critical support from the sky for most of the day. And when firefighters were able to make a stand and save a home, there was no victory. Just a brief reprieve from the helplessness of fighting fire against the wind.
Gotti, I feel like you really took us into what it is like there. This devastation goes well beyond the homes destroyed in Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, well beyond the homes. The scope of this is so difficult to comprehend. We've seen schools, we have seen synagogues, we've seen churches here along the Palisades. This is the heart of the Palisades. You've got a restaurant, I mean, down to the banks here in the Palisades have been reduced to ash. And unfortunately, we've been in the neighborhoods above, below, and to each side of the heart of the Palisades. And so far, they're saying about 1,000. That's a preliminary number, 1,000 structures lost. We can tell you that number is going to climb significantly. Lester?
All right, Gotti, thank you. Until today, it was hard to imagine destruction on this scale. Today, our Liz Croyt saw some of the worst of it.
A massive and deadly wildfire emergency is unfolding in Southern California. From the Pacific Palisades to Pasadena, multiple infernos continuing mass destruction of homes and businesses. Tens of thousands forced to evacuate.
Last night was one of the most devastating and terrifying nights that we've seen in any part of our city at any part of our history.
On the coast, the Palisades fire exploding to more than 15,000
Yeah,
acres.
no, like,
75-mile-per-hour
yeah,
winds
like-
overnight, pushing the flames up the Pacific Coast Highway, where it overtook the iconic city of Malibu and created this apocalyptic scene stretching for miles on the California coast.
We're watching multiple beachfront properties here just go up in flames. First responders trying to get a hold of the fires.
Hawaii,
all the
like,
neighboring properties here destroyed
earlier last
as the
year.
winds are picking up.
In the Pacific Palisades,
rips
officials
through
say
everything.
at least 1,000 structures lost. At the Eaton fire burning in Altadena, 45 minutes from the coast, at least 5 people have died and more than 100 structures destroyed. As wind-whipped embers expanded the fire's path, it forced the evacuation of this assisted living facility.
You'll see the people on stretchers and just the effort, very rapid effort to try to get these people out of harm's way.
For many, the race to get out was by any means necessary.
Which is your house?
Yeah,
Like, this is very. I'm getting deja vu from watching the
Some of the most
Hawaii
expensive
fire.
real estate in the world reduced to rubble on
Richmond,
Pacific Coast
VA
Highway.
doesn't have running water.
Here on PCH, home after home after
because
home
of this, or
beachfront
just
properties
you're
are
just saying it
destroyed.
doesn't?
Usually you would see the Pacific Ocean there. Now it's just ashes and smoke.
As fires still burn, officials urging residents not to ignore evacuation orders.
A high number of significant injuries to residents who did not evacuate, in addition to first responders who were on the fire line.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
The closest approximation was Paradise, California. Nothing comes close.
LA's Mayor Karen Bass, who has been on a work
Nope,
trip
that
in
was
Ghana,
that was
pressed
the
by
last
Sky
2
News at
fire
the
seasons in
airport.
Canada, where
Do
it
you owe
started.
citizens an apology for being absent
I
while
think
their
a
homes were
month
burning?
early, and then kept
Mayor
going
Bass.
Late
for
tonight,
another
Bass
month
addressing
after it
residents.
I am making sure that we leave no resource untapped.
usually ends.
Tonight, thousands displaced with the flames still threatening homes.
This is the garage.
In Malibu, Steve Wiggins says he tried everything to save his.
So I kept spraying all the embers, and then the next thing I know, a 30-foot wall of fire was coming at 60 miles an hour, and I couldn't see, and it was so smoky, and I said, well, it's time to leave.
He came back today to find nothing.
We lost everything we owned, but it doesn't even look like a house anymore. It just looks like a something.
A lot of heartbreak. Liz, the fire threat still very active tonight.
It really is, Lester. In fact, here in Malibu, you can see these crews continuing to work here as they try to put out the flames that are beginning to consume this home here on the coast.
Holy
Millions
shit.
across LA are on alert right now with some
like, what
evacuation
flame?
orders
They're
issued in
just
Santa
fully
Monica,
on fire.
with red flag warnings continuing through at least Friday. Lester.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thanks. We want to give you a lay of the land now as to where all this is happening and look at why resources may be so stretched. Los Angeles County is the most populous county in the nation, with major urban centers, sparkling beach communities, and rugged mountains. Pacific Palisades, where the first fire broke out yesterday, sits on the coast, Malibu to its north, iconic Santa Monica to its south. Moving inland 25 miles to the north and east of the Palisades is the Sylmar area. That's where the Hearst fire is burning. And then another 25 miles southeast from there is Altadena near Pasadena, where the deadly Eaton fire is raging tonight and where we find our Steve Patterson. Steve, good evening.
Lester, the air quality here has been miserable for now more than 24 hours. You can feel it, and when the smoke billows like this, it travels for miles. Area hospitals now filling up due to smoke inhalation, with experts saying the best thing you can do is to stay inside, and even then, if you have an air purifier, use one. If you have to be out in this, wet rags and surgical masks will not work. You need an N95 with a purifier. Today, the air quality index, or AQI, reached more than 300. That's hazardous to everyone, not just the most at-risk groups. Lester?
All right, thanks, Steve Patterson. Our colleagues at our NBC station in Los Angeles, KNBC, have been working nonstop for more than 24 hours covering this disaster. Their deep connection to those communities reflected in so much of their coverage, including this moment when reporter Michelle Valles was on the air as neighbors battled flames consuming the home next door.
This home next to it was on fire, and they were making gains here. They were making gains, and then all of a sudden the winds picked up. And you can just see how it's fueling the fire next door as these neighbors desperately try to keep their home from catching fire. So you're just helpless as you watch these people doing probably, you put yourself in their situation, and it's really dark, and it's really fiery here. There's a lot of explosions, and there's just no help in sight, and you're just wondering when this is all going to end. Riverside County, please stop. Yeah. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Praise the Lord.
Because that's the thing, I think, as a journalist, if I were in this reporter's shoes, I think the hardest thing would be like, fuck this, and to just say, screw this, and grab a hose. Hey, Camila, how's it going? Like, it'd be very difficult, I think, to just be an observer in times like this. That would be the hardest thing to resist, is to not just be like, what do you mean I'm not going to pick up a hose and start helping them protect their house?
I mean, they're going to really douse this fire here.
An amazing television moment, and certainly an amazing moment of humanity. Let me bring in Al Roker now. Al, what are the conditions that help fuel these fires? Is there any sense and sign of relief?
There is some relief coming, Lester. We saw those air flights resume because the winds have died down. The biggest problem is since October 1st, they've gotten less than 10% of their average rainfall. The good news is this high pressure, low pressure combo that has been squeezing these Santa Ana winds out, that's been the problem. Well, now they're starting to move to the east and separate, so the winds are starting to die down. That's
oh yeah, that was Green Party leader Elizabeth May.
Winds overnight coming down, the gusts into single digits in some spots. Now the next thing we're worried about, that storm system in the southwest, that's going to cause 52 million people to be under winter storm warnings, advisories, watches. Snowfall amounts: Dallas 2 to 5, 3 to 6 in Tupelo, plus icing conditions stretching from Texas all the way into the southeast. Big travel problems over the next 24 hours.
Okay, Al, thank you for that update. In 60 seconds, the latest on President-elect Trump's new legal showdown, his last-ditch appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court to call off his Friday sentencing. Will the justices step in? We're back now with President-elect Trump's sentencing in his hush money case set for Friday. Mr. Trump today making a last-ditch appeal to the...
I'm gonna drop you guys off until, because it's been a long ass day, and I need to go to bed. So we're gonna raid Mr. Burns. Wait, aren't you making it worse and doing nothing by grabbing a hose? Aren't you making it worse doing nothing by grabbing? I see. Yes, I get it. It's like, wait, what? Because I thought you just misspelled hose for a second. As in, it's two very similar words. Is it bad that I take comfort in the fact that Canada's losing shit? Yeah, no, I mean, Canadians have spent so many years taking comfort in the fact that while you guys are falling apart, at least we're not you guys. Now we're just as much as having just as much chaos as you guys. So you know what? Fill your boots. I fully support it.
He had a flashlight in his hands, and then after he left the home, he comes over and talks to us about how there were these vintage surfboards in the basement of the home that he was considering taking. He actually had the audacity to say that to us. My photog advised him that that was not a good idea to do that. And also, as I've been sitting in the news van here along Pacific Coast Highway, I got a notification from the Citizen app saying that the police had been called to a home in Pacific Palisades because someone had tried to enter a home there. So that's certainly a reality that we want to remind viewers of is, unfortunately, sometime when there are evacuations like the ones happening right now.
God, people are...
All right. There we go. Stream's all done.
See, this is the thing. At the start of the war in Ukraine... I remember at the start when people were getting like tied to trees and like taped to trees.